Well, hello, Michael.
Hello.
Welcome back to my massage parlor.
Oh no.
I promise I won't tell your wife.
Thank you.
I was going to start off in a library, but then with these glasses, and I was like, well,
Went very different direction.
Yeah, the music just didn't really lend itself to a library.
Yeah. It went in a very different direction very quickly.
What if we did that every time we started a live stream? We basically made it so that like each time it's like the intro to a really bad porno.
Yeah. Hey, step bro. I'm just gonna...
And then it's like, what if mom and dad find out? And then they're like, we're home and we're horny. And then they like jump on. Like that's the family dynamics in porn are always like that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like, don't worry. Like, you're my stepdaughter. It's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not related by blood.
Yeah. You're adopted, so it's okay and not weird at all.
That would be hilarious if they're like, they make that part of the bit that they're telling them in that moment that they're adopted. They're like, wait, what?
Yeah, hold on, I'm adopted? You're like, yeah, that would be weird if this was happening without that.
Yeah, we probably.
I'm not a pervert. I'm just horny. Like, yeah.
I waited till you were 18 to tell you were adopted and try to deliver you a pizza or whatever the premise is for most pornography.
Yeah, well, the newer, like the stepbro ones are like stuck in a washing machine, things like that.
Wait, I'm sorry. Who's stuck in a washing machine in these scenarios?
The girl. That's like the stepbro one. Like, help me, stepbro. But the girl like,
help,
she goes to like go in the washing machine. Yeah, she's like, oh no, I'm stuck in the washing machine. And the guy's like, well, let me help you out there with my penis. Yeah. So.
Animane says, "Whoops, I'm in the wrong chat. Didn't know this was Pornhub."
You know, you're in the right.
You're in the right place.
We just
you're all here. For
the stream said back with a vengeance, so you got to start out right. We got to come out the gates swinging our floppy cocks around. Yeah.
I feel like this would not be very pleasurable for him, though. That's like the hot dog in a hallway scenario.
Dude, yeah, dick stuck in a washing machine is not like good. Yeah, that's not sexy at all. Well, maybe to some people. I'm sure there's somebody. There's always like one person.
See, now I'm curious because there's a show that I love called Sex Sent Me to the ER. And it's basically like all sorts of like real life situations that winded people up in the hospital. So like one of them, I think the first episode was like the 400-pound virgin. And he basically was like, he was boning his girlfriend and he had a lot of momentum behind him and he boned her through the drywall. Like he just, I guess, thrusted real hard and her head went through the drywall and she went unconscious. So there's that one. There's a lot of ones where they were like somewhere they shouldn't be and then they got poison ivy all over them because they were trying to be secretive or they got some sort of horrible allergic reaction or whatever it was.
Oh my gosh.
The sex, the dick stuck in a washing machine sounds a lot like that.
Yeah. They're just like, oh no. They're like, what were you thinking? I don't know, man. I just really horny and I just had to put my dick in a washing machine.
I mean, didn't we did that one time, didn't we? We looked at, well, we put our dick in a washing machine.
Remember that time we were sticking our dicks in the washing machine? Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I'm like, we should do, I started just burping into the microphone. My apologies.
It's a good idea. Yeah. We've been gone long enough. We gotta, this is shaking the rust off. Is it being like, sorry.
I forgot how to act in public. Not that I ever really fully knew, but I pretended. I was an actor.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, I'm like, we should look at those lists of like the weirdest things people have like gone to the hospital for shoving up places. But I realized we already did that. Wasn't there a Buzz Lightyear one time?
Yeah, the Buzz Lightyear is the worst one. Yeah, it was just sitting up there with the wings expanded.
And you know that they weren't expanded when you put them in.
Yeah. Just like shove it up there and he just yeah.
He's like, this will be a great idea. And then he goes,
yeah. I can't see this going wrong for sure. Yeah, it's so bad.
And they said, and we were saying how most of them were dudes. And it's like,
yeah.
I don't think it's because dudes are any dumber than women. I know plenty of dumb women. I think it's just that women, we can shove things up both, you know.
Yeah.
Two holes. And one of them's a little bit more flexible and it's harder for things to get lost. For dudes, you guys only have the one. So you're
yeah. I mean, we do have two, but the other one's very small.
It's very small. That would be very impressive.
Yeah. There's yeah, that's true. If you haven't killed or maimed yourself during sex, you're really living. That's very true.
You're basically a virgin at that point. Like you could have had sex for years, but if you haven't done either of those things,
I'm like, oh wow, you guys haven't like hurt yourself severely during sex? Boring.
If somebody hasn't almost bled out and required a tourniquet to keep going.
It's like, what's the point? Why are you? What are you even doing with your life?
Yeah.
Um, so I watched a movie. I have to tell you about this because this reminded me of this. It came out recently. It's called Beau is Afraid. I don't know. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, so it's a
Oh,
movie.
wait, the one by the guy who did, Midsummer and Hereditary? With
Yes.
Joaquin Phoenix. Okay, I saw, like, a poster for it.
Yeah. So here's my thing. I got done with the movie and I really worked really hard to analyze this movie and couldn't figure it out and couldn't figure out what I really thought about it. And I kind of just gave up after a point because the director was like, it's whatever you decide for it to be. And I'm like, no, that's kind of a cheap cop out. What is the movie about?
Yeah.
Like, but this is a slight spoiler, but I'm gonna share it with you. Um, because this is kind of where the movie takes a really weird turn. At one point in the movie, it's hinted at that the main character never knew his dad because his dad and his grandfather had a like weird condition where when they had sex, when they orgasmed, they had a heart attack and died. And so that's why he never knew his dad was because the first time he had sex, he had a heart attack and died. So, and his mom basically tells him he has the same condition. So he's really freaked out about it. And then at one point, in the movie, he's been a virgin this whole time. He runs into this girl that he was in love with when he was younger that he promised he would wait for, and they start making out and they go to have sex. And partway through, he comes to his senses. He's like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna die!" And now you're thinking that this is how this is gonna happen. So he's like begging her to stop. He's like, "Please, please stop!" And she's like, "Oh yes, this is awesome." And you're like, "Oh my god, she's gonna kill him." And then he like nuts and you think you're like waiting for him to die, and he's like looking around. He's like, "Oh, oh." He's like, "I'm okay." And then it seems like, oh, like he was worried for nothing. And then he looks up at the girl he was having sex with, and she fucking died.
Oh my gosh,
And
okay.
so she's like frozen in place with like this horrible like look on her face, and then she just like falls over. Yeah, and it was just funny to me that like the whole thing about yeah virgins and ending up in the hospital. But yeah, she just yep.
See,
That's how she
I thought
go
that
on.
was just gonna be, like, maybe the mom was just trying to keep him, like, pure, you know how, like, they always
That's
say,
what
like,
I thought,
if
but
you,
no,
like, have sex, you'll get pregnant and die, or if you, like, masturbate, an angel loses its wings, or a kitten goes blind, or something like that. Like, I thought it was just something like
yeah,
that, but,
no, that's weird. Yeah, it's one of those ones I wouldn't suggest that movie to anybody really. It's a weird one. Have you seen Midsummer
yes.
and Hereditary? Did you like those movies?
Yes, so, yeah,
I saw somebody in the chat said it's one of Amanda's favorite movies of all
it
time.
it's a great movie. I have not watched it again. It fucked me up. Like, a lot of horror movies don't scare me because um they're like jump scares that only like they're like
Yeah,
fast food that only lasts a little bit and then runs right through you. But like Hereditary had a lot of just unsettling things. I think Midsummer also had unsettling things, but I didn't have like nightmares about Midsummer. But like Hereditary, there's like a scene where there's somebody like getting up out of bed and it's like a really slow and long and they're sitting there and whatever and like they're kind of I can't remember. I think he's like stretching and it's like nighttime. And like it's like 3 minutes, and then suddenly you realize the whole time that this person's been up in the corner on the ceiling the whole time. Like that kind of unsettling shit. So
yeah,
like I love horror movies, but also hate them.
that makes sense. Yeah. Well, I mean that's like psychological horror is like if you can figure like to me that's like real horror because like you said
Mhm.
jump scares and stuff are really easy
It's
and they're
cheap.
kind of cheap. Yeah, it's cheap, but like a movie like because for me like the movie that fucked me up, the horror movie that fucked me up really bad when I was younger was The Exorcist.
Okay.
And like I know some people are like, oh, it's not that scary, but like still to this day, like a lot of practical effects and stuff that they did in that movie makes it feel so real because you know that the person that's actually that the actress was kind of actually going through some of the shit that was happening. Like the scene where like she's going up and down in her bed was like them like with her. She was like on like a table thing with like a flip thing, and they were like really doing that to her and stuff. But for some reason, that really fucked with me really bad. And also just the like I don't know, the whole concept just freaked me out and stuff, like the whole atmosphere of that movie. So like movies like that freak me out. Movies with jump scares is more like, this is just stupid, you know?
The I agree because I feel like a lot of the scariest movies to me are the ones where you're like, "Oh my god, like what would I do in that scenario?" Like there's I don't want to give anything away, but there's a movie called The Orphanage, and it's like there's ghosts and stuff and it's spooky, but it's actually like the reality of it is actually horrifying and it could happen. And so like
Yeah,
that to me is what makes it scarier. And like you said, psychological horror is
yeah,
really like the way to get to people. Not like I don't like torture porn, like that kind of stuff, like Saw
yeah.
or
Saw,
Hostel. Like I
yeah.
don't not my
That's
thing.
not really horror. Like I would argue Saw maybe could be horror because the idea, even though it's torture porn, at least with Saw, the concept is like, what would you do to like survive? That
Mhm.
kind of, at least in the first one, that was kind of the scary part, was like, what would you do to stay alive, or like what would you be willing to push yourself through to like live through something horrible or whatever because you don't want to die. And that kind of thing, I guess, kind of in a way is psychological, but then like after that they immediately go into like, yeah, ooh, how dark and scary and gross can it
Yeah,
get?
I don't really
Yeah,
get who that's for. I mean, obviously it has an audience. Like I don't like the stuff like I know people who love the stuff that's reality. Like for me, I get more scared by well, okay, I'm kind of contradicting myself because I'm like the stuff that could happen and also ghosts, but that's to me I believe in ghosts. So I'm like
yeah,
ghosts can go through walls. You can't lock them out of a room. You can't blast them. You can't like
yeah,
there's no stand your ground against a fucking ghost.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, so I know people who are like, "Oh, ghosts don't scare me because they're not, that's not gonna happen." They like the movies that are like the next was it The Last House on the Left or something like that, like the ones where it's like the strangers, basically like
yeah, and yeah,
the ones that are like break-ins or like humans being horrible to other humans and like torturing them or whatever. And I'm like, that stuff I can't watch.
yeah.
Because I don't want to know. I know humans can be terrible. I don't know to watch that for my entertainment.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, yeah, I get that. But like, I mean, yeah, the scariest movies are ones that prey on like fears that we've all had of like, yeah, you're getting dressed in the middle of the night or you have to get up and go pee and there's like just somebody in the room with you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
The ones the ones where there's just somebody standing at the foot of your bed when you wake up, like that kind of shit.
Yeah, yeah, that's not cool. Which I will say, you either have to get past or you don't, like, because having kids, kids love to do that to you. That's like
Oh,
kids' favorite thing to do. Yeah. It's like you just wake up in the middle of the night and there's just like a small person that's head barely goes over the top of your bed just
oh
staring at you.
God.
So you're just like laying there. And the thing is, because like how people can kind of sense when people are around them. So like sometimes like somebody will be standing behind you and maybe they haven't made any noise, but you just know they're back there. So you like turn around. That's what it's like with kids. Is like you'll be laying there in the middle of the night and you just be like sleep, and then you'll just be like, there's somebody watching me right now. So you like snap awake in a panic, and there's just a person. They're just like, "Hi, Dad." I'm like, "What do you want?" like I
Just
have
kick
to
them in the
pee.
face and they're like,
Yeah,
"Oh."
yeah. My kid does it to me sometimes. I mean, they still kind of do, and they try to be better. I'm like a panic waker, like if I get woken up, and so sometimes like, yeah, my kids will be like, "Dad," and they try to be like really quiet. I'm like, What's going on?" And they're like, "I just wanted water," and I'm like, "Then go get some water. You didn't have to ask me." Um, but yeah, like stuff like that is, but yeah, that's the scary part. But I had to like kind of get past that as kids because yeah, you can't just go swinging on kids every time somebody wakes you up in the middle of the night. You kind of have to try to regulate that a little bit better. So
I
yeah,
mean, yeah, if you're a puss.
yeah.
Uh, so we have
Make
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say make them stronger. You just start kicking your kids in the
Yeah,
face.
just builds character and also teaches
Yeah,
them not to startle you in the middle of the night.
that's very
Uh,
true.
so we have super chat from Josie 1818 Pureblood. A movie that is underrated is The Pact. If you haven't seen it, do so. Very Alfred Hitchcock and William Friedkin. Check it out.
Oh, okay.
I That sounds good. I like
The
Alfred
pack
Hitchcock.
sounds familiar.
Would I know who William Friedkin is? I might have seen like, let's see.
I'll look him up.
We're both like being movie nerds. Like, have I seen this?
Let's see what movies has he done. The name sounds super familiar. Um, you keep reading things while I look him up.
Okay.
He did The French Connection. Oh, The Exorcist. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Well, I
That sounds
remember.
good then.
Yeah, I remember actually when he was doing The Exorcist, there was a whole thing. His wife, when he was editing the movie, was so freaked out. She wasn't even religious, but she was so freaked out by the movie that she had like Gregorian chants playing in the house because it, like, for some reason, it was like the presence of the movie in the house was just like too much for her.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that that's the kind of stuff is like really interesting. Just, yeah, that kind of a concept is kind of scary that you're like not even religious and you're like, nope, I'm freaked out by this. I don't like what's happening here.
This is I'm not about this life.
Yeah.
Uh, Ben says in Gerard's game, the protagonist was tied to the bed with her feet out, and the monster sucked on her feet. That's why I always keep my feet covered. And that was in response to Anime made a comment earlier about like, be sure to cover your feet tonight, Amanda, or the monster's gonna suck on your toes.
Yeah.
Because we all know it's a ghost law.
Yeah.
Ghosts can't get you if your feet are covered at night. Uh, if you jump onto your bed from
Yep.
like the doorway, like they can only reach like a 1 foot radius out from under the bed, so they can't get you if
Yeah.
you don't stand next to
And
it.
they can't go up with it. Yeah.
No, it's out.
Yeah.
Out in
Yeah,
it.
it's out.
They get one shot. And then ghosts can't get you if all the lights are on.
Yep.
Um and if you can see them. Like if your like eyes are open, they only get you if you're asleep. Or if your back's to them. So if you're like walking up the stairs backwards, the ghost's like, shit.
Yep. Damn it. Like they're watching, so I can't go after them.
There's a lot
Yeah.
of limitations to being a ghost. You would think like, oh, like I have a lot of freedom, I can move through walls, but there's actually a ghost code. So
Yep. Yeah. And then if they don't follow it, then you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, there's a code, buddy. Like, what are
oh,
you doing? Yeah.
yeah, Rescue Hamster says the idea that someone could be hiding in the house is incredibly horrifying to me. It keeps me from sleeping if I hear weird creaks and sounds. Would rather have ghosts. So, I was watching this show on Discovery Plus called I think it's called Crimes Gone Viral. And they had a couple things like that where it's like people's home security cameras. And it showed like this one where this couple was like downstairs on the couch watching TV and they'd fallen asleep. It was like the two of them cuddling, watching TV, and their dog. And I mean, I don't know what kind of defective dog they had that didn't bark when this happened, but some guy broke in upstairs. And in the video, you see them like asleep on their couch. And you see this guy in a hoodie just standing at the top of their stairs. And they said it was like for 14 minutes.
You just stared at them for 14
Well,
minutes?
I think what was happening was that he didn't think they were home and then was like, "Oh, fuck." And then
Okay.
tried to figure out if he was gonna go through with it or not. Because he's like, "I'm here. I already did the work to jimmy this window open. I probably shouldn't go back. Maybe I should have gone back to welding school." And he's just like
Yeah.
reevaluating his life
His
decisions
whole
in that
on top
moment.
of these steps while the yeah,
Yeah,
the
he's having a midlife crisis.
that's
Um,
so crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
That reminds me, was it Elijah Wood? There was like somebody recently I heard a story about. It was somebody I think from I don't remember which one it was. It was somebody from I think Lord of the Rings. They had somebody break into their house and they were like at home and somebody like broke in. They were in the UK and they didn't hear them at first. And then they like looked behind them while they're sitting on the couch and there was just like a person in their house and like, hey, what are you doing? And the guy was like, oh, like my bad. And he's like, get out or whatever. And then they like guy like left, but it was like, I'm like, that's kind of creepy. Like yeah.
that's like the what's his name? He's this annoying guy who well, I think he got banned, but he was on like TikTok and like YouTube or whatever. And I think it was it Mimsy or something like that? And he's this guy who would be like, I'm gonna do this thing. And he like would go up to people and like slap their phones out of their hands and
Yes.
shatter them, or just like literally walk into people's houses and just sit
Yes.
there and like wait for them. And like they're like, bro, I have kids, get out.
Yep.
And like I just think it's very funny that scenario would end up very differently in the US.
Yes.
That'd be a one-time prank.
One time prank and you're dead. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because like
yeah.
50-50 chance that person has a gun in the house. Yeah. Well, yeah, I remember I watched a video. Like he did it to a couple houses. And I noticed, and I won't say that this is good for him because it's still fucked up, but I noticed whenever he was in a house and he noticed they had kids in the house, he would leave almost immediately. Like one video, he walked into their house like with his buddies, and the family didn't even know he was in the house. They didn't even hear him. And he goes around a corner, they were cooking dinner, and their kids were like next to them. He just goes, "Oh shit!" And he's like, "They got kids," and they like ran out. And then like another one he did, he walked in right past the lady who was outside in her garden. She's like, excuse me. And then like he walks in and then he sees the husband. And And the husband's like, can I help you? And they're like, oh, we're looking for blah blah blah. He's like, no, you're in the wrong house. He goes, oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, we're just looking for so and so. And they keeps walking around the guy's house, and then like sat on his couch and put his feet up on the guy's like table, all this stuff. And then the guy finally like escorts them out, and they like leave. But I'm like, yeah, in America, like even if they don't have a gun, there's gonna be some kind of violent response to what's happening.
Yeah,
Like you're gonna get fucked up. Like, yeah.
I can't imagine living in a culture that's like you just can't do anything. And he said that like he was on Piers Morgan or something and
Yeah.
he was like, "Yeah, I can do it cuz UK laws are so lax, like I can do what I
Yes.
want." Like they wouldn't really punish him, or if they did, like they wouldn't, I don't know, they wouldn't do much to him.
Yeah.
Whereas in America it's like, "Bro, you'd go to jail for a long time if you don't get blasted by the homeowner." Like
Oh yeah.
we have no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Well, it's funny because that's another thing I just saw read about was I think it was in Alabama. Some guy broke into this like lady's home, this elderly lady's home. And well, he came up to her door and he asked her first. He goes, "Hey, can I come in and use your phone? I'm hurt. I need help." She goes, "Well, I can call the paramedics if you need help." And he was like, "No, no, no. I just need to come in and use your phone." And she's like, "No, you can't come in and use my phone." So she went and called the cops. And then he broke into her house while she was on the phone.
Jesus.
The thing he didn't know, and this is my favorite part of the story, was this woman, 84 years old, was a power lifter, like who had just won like a bunch of awards. So the first thing she did in response apparently was she picked up a table and broke it over the guy's back, and then she just proceeded to beat the shit out of the guy. She said, I just started jumping on him as hard as I could and stuff. And apparently, like by the time the cops got there, the guy was like in a ball, like not moving, and they had to like take him to the hospital because she beat the shit out of him at
I
like
love
84
that.
years old. Yeah.
That
And I was
makes me
like,
happy.
dude, yeah, that's what I was like. That's so great that she's just like, nah, not today, man. Like, not in my house. But that's like America for you. Is like, yeah, you just never know. Like, yeah,
What are the rules in the UK about like because I was looking it up the other day because I was like, okay, what are the rules for having a gun? Because I know some people can, but I think it's mainly just for like hunting. But you have to have like a reason for it, and self-defense or like home protection isn't a reason enough.
yeah.
But I heard that if you even have like a baseball bat by the door or something like that, it like you can't. I heard that even that you'd end up in jail if you defended yourself with, like, a baseball bat. Is that true?
I don't know actually. That's a really good question. I'll look that up. And it says according to this government. This is according to the UK government. This is on their official website. You can use reasonable force to protect yourself or others if a crime is taking place inside your home. Um, so I don't know, but you know what? That's also it's hard to know exactly what that means because they may be different over there. I've heard that they're even though they say certain things on the books, like they treat crimes differently over there. I know like my buddy that lives in the UK told me, shout out to Disparu, that over there they have like thought crimes. So like if you post something on your like Twitter
Mhm.
that like offends somebody and they report you to the police will come to your house and like have a conversation with you or can arrest you for like being offensive.
I saw
Like,
that. I saw a guy get arrested because they were like, "Well, a post you made caused people a lot of distress." It's just like,
yeah,
who gets to determine that? That's terrifying. That's like
uh-huh.
Minority Report
Yeah,
thought crimes.
100%. And he was actually talking about how over here in the US, because we have like cameras and stuff in the courtroom and things can get like go viral and stuff, whereas they don't allow that in their courtrooms. And so there's no like accountability to the proceedings. So they can just do whatever they want in there. Versus over here, there has to be almost some level of accountability because people can just be like, hey, look at this judge do this really shitty thing. And then that judge might not get voted in again. They might get in trouble by like, bigger, like juries and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
No, it
Yeah.
is. Did Ghost just come into the room?
Yeah. The ghost walked in and then it was like, nah, I'm good, bro. I was like, I got lights on in here. And I was like,
He's
oh
like,
shit.
and his feet are
Damn.
covered. You're just all right. I'll come back later.
Yeah. This is stupid. Like, what are you even doing, man? Yeah.
Sea Highness said, "Hippity hoppity, get off my property," or it's boom boom boppity.
Yeah. There you
It
go.
should be at the bottom of the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah. 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 Give me your poor and huddled masses, but don't come up in my house or you get shot. Yeah. Yeah.
Or it'll be a picture of the Always Sunny meme with Frank. where like he's
Oh
like,
yeah. So,
anyway, I
anyways,
started
that just started
blasting.
blasting. Yeah.
Have you seen Joe said, have either of you seen the movie It Follows? I
No.
think I know what it is, right? It's the one where there's like the kind of like the creepy guy who like I'm trying to find like he doesn't have like you don't see his eyes. It's kind of it's like shadowy or whatever. And I believe he like I don't think he fucks you to death. I think it's like he what is it? It's something where like it's like The Ring but with like sex. Like you have to bone somebody else and give them the STD or
Huh.
or you die, but then they're gonna die. So then they have to. It's basically maybe just like a really long PSA for gonorrhea is what I'm
That's
wondering
what I
now.
feel like it is. I'm trying to figure out what exactly um because yeah, like I'm reading this, it just says yeah, it follows you around and like but it like just walks after you.
Let's see.
Uh,
There's a because I remember like okay, he's like really tall. I think it follow.
maybe, yeah. This is gonna give me nightmares for sure. So um yeah, I don't know. That's it's interesting.
Oh, it's
The one movie too that somebody was talking about in Gerald's Game or whatever. Yeah, is like yeah, it's like a husband and wife go to like a cabin to spice up their marriage because and then the husband like dies of a heart attack after he like ties his wife to the bed. So she's just
oh.
like stuck there. But then apparently in the middle of like the movie and in the book, this like being shows up and she thinks she's hallucinating it and he like yeah I think he sucks on her toes and there's like this big scary dude with like glowing eyes and she thinks she hallucinates it and then later in the movie you find out that it was like a real person and like the serial killer who like broken in and like saw her and then was like I'm not gonna kill her though and then like left and then there's like a whole big thing at the end of the movie is that like it was like a real person that almost killed her
I would
and I'm
feel
like
very insecure if a serial killer who like that's his thing. He kills people,
yeah.
many of them. He comes in, sees me tied up, and decides I'm not worth killing.
Yeah. Well, maybe he got it's because he got to suck on their toes, you know? That's probably what it is his victims are like, no, don't suck on my toes. He's like, I'll kill you if you don't let me. Whereas he's like, oh, she let me, I'm good.
He's like, this is all I want. I'm not a serial killer. I'm just a serial
Yeah.
toe sucker.
I just like sucking toes, but if I don't get that toe sucking in, I get a
It's
little violent.
I get
Yeah.
cranky. I get a little hangry,
Yeah, I
if I
get a
don't get
little
my snack.
I get hangry for them toes. Oh God. Mm.
Thank you, Rolling
Oh
Chairs,
my
for the
God.
super chat. He says, have y'all seen Misery with Kathy Bates? She's cool.
Have
Yeah,
you seen Misery?
I have
Okay.
seen that one.
God, that movie is brutal.
It's so good, but it's yeah, it's really fucked up. Like I can't even think about like the sledgehammer thing without cringing.
Bro, it's so brutal. Like that scene is so like, oh my God. Yeah. And but that's like one of those psychological that's like psychological horror. I mean, like, yes, it's body horror, but it's just the idea of like this woman being like, no, it's okay. I'm nursing you back to health. And I'm gonna break your legs so you can't leave. It's like,
It's that like Munchausen by proxy kind of thing with like
uh-huh.
oh, I need you to need me and I'm gonna take care of you, but I'm also the one who's making you sick.
Uh-huh. Speaking of Always Sunny, there's like a whole episode where that happens where what is it, Dennis is like getting sicker and sicker, and you find out that Mac has been like putting all this like garbage like food into his like protein shakes because he's trying to make him dependent on him so that like Dennis will need him more around more. And like so the whole thing, like Dennis is getting weaker and Mac has to carry him everywhere. Yeah, I was like, dude, I was like, this is so messed up. But
It's such a I'm so glad that like so I started watching it from the beginning recently with my boyfriend because it's his favorite show.
yeah,
And it's so good. I mean, like it's very different in the beginning. Like they're a little bit more normal people, or not normal, they're still messed up, but like
yeah.
they get more deranged over the seasons.
Hmm.
But what I love is like we just watched there was like the like they start off right off the bat. It's like the gang gets racist and they're like there's an abortion episode, there's a gun episode.
Yep.
And what I love is that they're kind of like it's like the writer's room is playing out on the screen. So it's not just like these are our opinions and anybody who doesn't agree with them are stupid. It's like, Mac and Dennis might have one opinion and then D and Charlie have another and you're seeing both sides and you're seeing the comedy in both perspectives and like maybe they changed their minds or whatever, but it's not like a
Yeah.
preachy thing. It's just like, I don't know if I really
Yeah.
like guns. Oh, guns are actually the best. Oh my god, you shot me. Like it's kind of just like yeah, I really
Yeah.
like that.
100%. Yeah. I was shocked. I just started watching it recently too. I mean, like I'm almost I'm almost completely caught up now. But yeah, when I started it, I was like, oh, okay. They're like, this is fun. But I love the fact that like the biggest kick of the show is that I'm like, you couldn't really get away with some of this stuff nowadays. And it's
No.
like, yeah, like, but now, but the fact is, none of these people are redeemable. They're not good people. They're all terrible human beings.
Yeah.
And they just progressively get worse. And yeah, the fact that like, yeah, I really enjoy that part of it. Like you said, yeah, they get more deranged as the show goes on, and that makes the show even better. Yeah,
Artemis is my favorite It's Always Sunny character. I
she's
just
pretty
watched the
great.
episode where she was introduced, but I've seen like sporadically episodes here and there. And I just remember there was one episode where Artemis talks about something about like she's like, I bleach my asshole. And I'm like, all right, that's all
Yeah,
I know about this character, but that's all you need to know.
yeah. That I mean, yeah, the character gets pretty good. I mean, she's good. Um, yeah, I think it's interesting because like the show, like you said, it starts out as kind of like three normal guys with like they obviously have like bad like proclivities, but then
Mhm.
they become like really deranged. But then the show, like as it gets going on later, it starts to do like meta commentary on things too, which I think is kind of funny, and I really enjoy how the show has progressed. But yeah, I also am really impressed because that show specifically figured out another way to do blackface that totally works and should not be acceptable, but 100% is, because the way they make it work is really good. Because
No,
they
they still
basically
removed the episodes, didn't they? I
they
heard
did
that they
remove the episodes, but I went and watched them. That's the thing, they're not even that bad.
yeah,
But I mean, like it's definitely racist. But I'm like, but that's the whole point. Is
right.
they're racist?
The
Like,
character is racist. It's like the writers, that's what people don't get. They're saying like, okay, the character has this perspective. The writers are like, we are making fun of this perspective. Like that's satire. Is like you're like,
yes,
I'm making fun of it by showing it. It doesn't mean that I agree with this or condone it.
yeah. Well, because like the one episode that they removed, the lethal weapon one, it's hilarious because they address the fact that like Mac dressing in blackface as Danny Glover, they're like, that's racist because you can't do blackface. And he's like, isn't it more racist that I'm playing Danny Glover but I'm white? Like I'm replacing a black man? Like, isn't it less racist that I'm trying to look and honor him as closely as I possibly can? And they're like, no, but like, yeah, that whole sequence with him is actually pretty great. And then there's like a whole scene where he's like showering and like all the makeup's like washing off, and oh dude, it's so bad. But I'm like, this is how you do blackface, and I just did think you could pull that off, but they do. And they constantly reference the fact that how terrible it is that anybody's doing blackface while they do blackface, which to me is the funniest thing ever. So
I've had to do tan face before.
you
Yeah.
racist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, even then, it probably should have been darker because, like, it didn't make any sense. Like, sometimes race doesn't really matter towards the story, but, like, the story that it was a play, and I think I've told you this one before. It was, like, when I did the play in college, and it was The Bluest Eye, and it was, like, Toni
No.
Morrison. It's a play that was written back in the day, and so it
Mhm.
was, like, this dark-skinned girl, Piola or something like that. And she was like really, really dark, and everybody like treated her like crap because of it. My character was supposed to be like beyond like not Beyonce, like a little darker. It's supposed to be like a Michelle or a Kelly
Okay.
dark.
Yeah.
And I am not that. But the director, who
Oh,
was actually that dark, so it's not like a white person was like, "Oh, this will be a great idea." It was a dark actor, dark director who was like, "Yeah,
a dark skin said I could do it.
a darky." A doc, said I could do it. No, but like I'm just saying, like it wasn't just like somebody who's like, I'm well
Yeah.
meaning and I'm just gonna be like, he was like, no, like he's like, you were the best one for the role. And I appreciated that, but at the same time, I'm like, this makes no sense because I'm sitting here talking about how I wish I was lighter skinned and I wish I had curly hair, not an afro. And I'm like, I do have like I have curly hair. I have the things I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And there's another character in the play named Maureen Peel, and she's like, she has like light, a light complexion and like tight, beautiful little curls or whatever. And it's like, it made no fucking sense. So they tried to put me in like darker face, which I still think is blackface. But
Yeah.
I was like, well, as long as I own up to it now, I'm all right, right? I
Yeah.
repent
This
for
is how
my
you get
sins.
this is how you get uncanceled for blackface, is you just get ahead of it. You just gotta let people know.
Also, I
Yep.
kind of did a little bit of it for the Martin Luther King sketch. It
I
wasn't
mean,
showing up real great on camera. It's a black and white video, and I was like, "Oh, on black and white, I look even more white." I literally
yeah.
am, like, more white than black and black and white. I'm
Mhm.
I yeah, you if you just had my skin, it would look like I'm just wearing a Klan hood. Uh,
Well,
uh, that's my problem.
that's hey, hey, listen. You I like how you were like, I only did it the one time. Well,
Another time, and also,
yeah.
last weekend, and, played a dark elf at the Renaissance Fair, and, uh
See, that one's silly to me, like the community episode that got removed.
mm,
Um, because of blackface, because the character was playing a black elf. They're playing a dark elf, but it's Ken Jeong playing a dark elf, but he like painted his skin black, like black. And they're like, "Oh no, you can't do that. That's racist." And he's like, "I'm a dark elf," and they removed the episode.
that drives me nuts. Like, do you know, like, people don't realize how racist it sounds when they're trying to not be racist? So, like,
Yeah.
you remember when people were all upset with D&D, or was it D&D or Lord of the Rings? But they're like, the orcs with their big lips and their
Oh yeah,
big nose and
that's
their violence are clearly supposed to be an allegory for black people, and that's
mhm.
racist. I'm like, it's racist that you associate big-lipped violent people with,
With black people.
with
Yeah.
black people. Like, what? How is this? I don't know. It's
Oh,
comical to me if it weren't so stupid.
100%. No, like that's exactly it. But yes, it was D&D. They also since then have gotten rid of race because they're like race shouldn't be a thing in D&D. And they got rid of like racial traits because they're like that's not fair that certain species or like certain races have more advantage than others. I'm like, you know, the word race specifically that you're talking about, they're not humans. Like
I
orcs can't be a stand-in for black people because they're not human. And nobody's saying that orcs are subhuman unless you're saying that elves are a stand-in for somebody because they're like better than humans in some ways. Like,
it yeah, it would be some sort of it would be like I'm trying to think of like what actually would be problematic, but I'm like if the orcs were like, rolling up on people and being like blop blop blop,
yeah.
fire hands or whatever, like
You
some
suck.
spell.
Yeah. I
Like
don't yeah.
melee, blah blah blah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's kind of ridiculous. Well, there was like a whole controversy too that somebody did with I think it was Starfinder where it was like a race of like monkey people and they were like minstrels, so they did like music and stuff like that, and they were like athletic and stuff. And somebody was like, "They're standing for black people," and I'm like, "It's weird that you assumed automatically that that's what they were trying to go for." I mean, and
Mhm.
maybe they were, maybe they subconsciously were like, "Hey, I have a really great idea," and they're like, "Wow, that doesn't seem racist at all." But I don't know. Like you said, the fact that somebody like jumps to racism right away, kind of, it's like, damn, you might be projecting a little bit.
It
Like,
shows like their state of mind where it's like you're always thinking about race, huh? You're always like I don't know. I have a feeling that these people who are like the first ones clutching their pearls at this stuff, are also the first one to lock their car doors when they see like a ghetto looking black guy walking by. Which, to
oh,
be fair,
100%.
even black people do that when a ghetto looking dude walks by. Like
Yeah.
if you look like you're about to rob somebody, I don't care what race you are, people are gonna lock their fucking doors. Like it's so
Yeah.
dumb to be like, I would rather let myself get robbed. And not hurt his fifis. And I used to be like that. I'm like, well, I don't want to assume. It's like, no, if even if he's not going to do anything, if somebody's dressed up and idolizing somebody who looks like a gangbanger,
Yeah.
then either they're dumb, like they might be from the suburbs, but they're like, I think it's cool to, whatever, or they actually want to emulate that lifestyle. Either way, it's not my responsibility to figure out your intentions or like see the best in you. I don't know
Oh,
you.
100%. Yeah, like 100%. Yeah. Well, what's there's a comedian named Patrice O'Neill that did a whole bit on that where he's talking about like if like a white guy's walking down the street and he sees like three black guys walking towards him, and he's like, and then the guy goes across the street and people are like, oh, that's racist. And he's like, listen, if I'm walking down the street and I see like three white dudes with like bald heads and like tattoos walking towards me, you could bet my ass I'm gonna move on the other side of the street too. Like sometimes
Mhm.
he's like, it just makes sense. It's not about not like I don't want to walk near black people. It's guess what? You don't want to die like if you walk into the wrong group of people. And sometimes it's okay to stereotype because sometimes the stereotype is you trying to protect yourself, not you not liking somebody,
It's
you
yeah, it's
know?
survival. And like
Yeah.
so my boyfriend grew up like really poor, like, white in like the trailer trash realm. He is not currently trailer trash, but he's like he knows a lot of people like that. And he's like his theory is that a lot of people who are racist are not actually they don't hate black people. What they hate is like the worst parts of urban culture, which
Yeah,
I think is an interesting theory because he's like, yeah, like they tend to be like the same people who are like, oh, I like this one or I like that one, and people go, oh, it's because you hate black people. It's like, no, it's I think it's
yeah,
they hate the crime or they hate the whatever, like the danger or the violence, but it's like that's not inherently black. That's inherent to like a certain type of urban culture, which I think a
yeah.
lot of people have a problem with. So I just think that's I wish
Oh,
there was more
100%.
nuance in the conversation instead of just calling everybody racist.
100%. I mean, yeah, like, yeah, there's what's it called? There's the not yeah, the word is like prejudice, which
Hmm.
I don't think that word gets used enough, but like that word always is assumed that somebody hates black people, but it's like, no, like sometimes you just like, you know what? I don't like ignorant people. And sometimes like black, white, there's like ignorant people and stuff, and like you just don't like them. But like, yeah, stereotyping like, oh, I don't like blacks because of that is one thing versus like I grew up in a poor neighborhood and I know a certain type of people that I just don't really want to associate with or
Hmm.
I don't want to talk to. And you shouldn't assume the worst of anybody, but also like, yeah, in some neighborhoods you just know better.
Yeah.
Like I grew up in some of those terrible neighborhoods where you just knew better and you just didn't mess around with it, you know, but I don't know. It's just weird. It's yeah.
People be stupid, and I'm hoping I don't know. I for those of you who saw, I was on Carrie Smith's show Deprogrammed last week, so go check that episode out. But we
Yes.
kind of talk about that where I maybe I'm just being stupidly optimistic, but I really do feel like I see a lot of it at the end. Like I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of this policing of language, a lot of this uber, I don't know, outrage at everything. I'm seeing it dying down a bit, and I'm seeing people I don't know, I'm seeing people even, like, who used to be in those subcultures. I don't know if it's because 'cause they're growing up, because 'cause it's been a couple years, and they're kinda like, "Alright, I'm tired, like, maybe we should be, kinder," or maybe there's nobody else left to cancel or something, but I'm hopeful that I think people are gonna start seeing nuance again and understanding, like, "No, actually, okay, we were a little bit crazy because this is what happens when you let teenagers run the internet."
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I actually really like that episode. I did not finish all of it yet because I'm a terrible friend. But yeah, that was actually really good. Though I love that you and Carrie got together. Also, guys, if you haven't watched it, go check it out. Because it literally only took Amanda 16 minutes to start talking about living and going to a dungeon for the first time.
Mhm. I didn't know how
So,
else to bring up the story, and I was like, "Shit." I was trying to think of, like, where else could I say I was where this came up, but it's not like it would make sense to be like, "I was at a PTA meeting,"
mhm.
and
Yeah. No, Amanda just wanted to share that she was in a dungeon before. She's like, "Oh, have you? What do you think about dungeons, Carrie?" And Carrie's like, "What?" And she's like, "Just wondering because I've been in one before. Did you know that?"
yeah, I just, like, wanna brag because it
Yeah.
was super cool.
Have you ever been
Uh,
in a dungeon before? I didn't think so.
it was lame.
No, that's what you said. It was like, wow. Yeah, the
It
conversation about consent. What was it?
body neutrality.
Body neutrality.
It was, basically I've told this story before, but basically, I was at a dungeon once because I was like, "Oh, this is interesting. I want to see everything." And they had like a 30-minute sermon beforehand about like body neutrality, and this person was like, the woman talking was like trying to be like, all bodies are beautiful, blah blah blah. Be accepting of who you are. Like, which I'm like, okay, fine. Like, if you want to enjoy getting your, being a pasty white person and getting spanked in a dungeon, like that's like you do you. But it was like with like okay, everybody there was like exceedingly woke, like to the point, and I hate that phrase now. I don't know how else to say it, but like bright colored hair, everybody was like, I have 10 disabilities and I wear a badge that says them all so that you'll treat me special or whatever, like that level. And when she would say things, you'd get like 10 hands being like, but what about me and how special I am, kind of thing. So it's like, well, how does this apply to me as a queer, ableist, whatever thing? Or the one of them said, how does body neutrality, Mike, are you excited? And you're just like, I need a second to myself.
Yeah,
Body
I was really getting
neutrality.
pumped there. No, I was trying to turn on my fan underneath my desk because my balls are sweating. So, but I was trying not to draw attention to it and just
And
listen to your
now,
really awesome story. But now everybody knows.
now I pointed out your sweaty balls.
Yeah, that's my favorite part. I do have to say that's my favorite part of these streams is that like anytime if I go off camera or anything, I'm trying to like adjust something or do something. Man, it's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I was just scratching my balls off camera. And she's like, that's what I was wondering. Thanks
I
for
was
letting
like,
everyone know.
everybody look at Mike and
Yeah,
laugh.
look, what is he doing? Why is he off camera? Find out what he's doing over there. Yeah. Oh my god.
That was something on there was a stream where Ivan sometimes had his dog sitting like at his leg or like at his knee, and sometimes he'd
Yeah.
be petting his dog and it
Oh
would do the
yeah. It looks so bad.
and you're like,
Yeah.
Ivan, what's going on? He's like, what? And you're like,
And he's like looking all serious. And he's like, and you're like, what are you
and
doing,
he's
dude?
more vigorous. It's just like,
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
I'm petting my dog. And I'm
yeah,
like, do you
sure
have
you
a
are.
dog? Yeah. But anyways, you were saying, yeah, about
Oh
like
yeah.
different people trying to be
So
special.
she was trying to answer their questions. So they're like, well, how does body neutrality apply to me as a blah, blah, blah? And like this one person's like, how does it apply to me as a disabled, whatever? And she was like, well, and completely straight faced, not like laughing in any way or appreciating the irony of it. She's like, well, one time, like, she's like, I'm a big girl and I'm like 250 pounds or something like that. And I was, when I hook up with men and I sit on top of them, they go numb. Like they can't, I worry for their safety. But with this one guy, I was with a guy who was a quadriplegic or paraplegic. Quadriplegic feels like criminal where you're like, I can't move anything.
And
Like
you're like,
he can't
Dad!
he can't even sign the waiver to like consent
Oh
to it.
no.
Like I guess maybe they put the pen in his mouth and just be like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
go to town.
Yeah.
But he
Damn.
was yeah. So she was with a guy in a coma. No, she was with a guy, and she's like, and he couldn't feel it. It didn't hurt him. So in that scenario, being disabled was a plus. And like she was trying to like, it was so funny to me, and I could not stop laughing because she wasn't like, this is insane. She was like genuinely trying to be like, well, this is how body positivity and body neutrality can apply even when you're disabled. I'm like, look, I'm not saying I have a problem with disabled people. I'm just saying like it was just the reach she had to go to, the reach
Yeah.
around, if you will.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's my thing. I'm like, I don't know. It's in today, like, because everything's like all like everybody's all scared about getting canceled and getting in trouble and stuff. There's like so much caution, but like if you go to a place like a dungeon, like obviously nothing bad should happen to you there, but like conversation about like, hey, don't make fun of like fat people at this dungeon. We're like all inclusive. It's like, okay. I mean, nobody's probably going to a dungeon to make fun of anybody because you're all in a dungeon. So like,
Right. Like you're like I understand what they're trying to say. Like, hey, it's okay. You don't have to be like a size 0 to enjoy, like pleasure. But like, yeah, nobody's gonna be there being like, "Hey, fatty," just
yeah,
like throwing slushies at people inside of a dungeon.
yeah, like it's just kind of, I don't know. It's that thing of like, what was it? Where the one chick was like, "Oh, it's transphobic if like a guy doesn't want to date a trans woman." And they're like, well, like, what if you have a penis and I don't like penises? They're like, well, I'm more than my genitalia. I'm like, yeah, but the point is, if we're banging and you don't have a vagina, then I don't want to interact with your genitalia. And they're like, that's transphobic. And it's like, no, it's just the fact is like the guy likes vagina and he doesn't want to interact with anything other than that.
It's weird and it's dumb because they'll
Yeah.
say, "Oh, you're more than your genitalia," but then they call me like an ovary haver or a cervix haver or a
Yeah.
vagina haver. I'm like, so that's literally defining me by my body
Yeah.
and my so it's like
Yeah. Which is weird. Yeah. Like, don't define me by my gender. Or yeah, I'm not defined by my genitals, but I'm like, guess what? When it comes to sex, yes, you are. Because that's how you do the sex thing is with genital interaction. Unless you're just like, one of those people you're like, I have sex through my brain. I just stare at the person and then I just orgasm.
there's people who can do that. They can like meditate their way to one or like just think their way to it.
I feel like those people are fake.
I don't think so, because have you ever had a wet dream?
Yeah, but like you have to make that happen. Like, well, you
No,
don't.
like
Well, part
your
of it is,
subconscious is doing it,
yeah, I
and you're not
guess.
touching anything. It's literally
I
all up here.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just weird. It's one thing like you have like lucid dreams and you're like, I nutted in my sleep, versus like I could just sit there and you're just like,
But
ugh.
it's not lucid dreams. I'm saying like you're kind of like having a dream, you're not even aware it's a dream, and then something happens, you're like, "Ugh."
I don't know.
That's
That
technically
seems
the same thing.
it seems kind of fake. I don't know that anybody can actually do that. I'd be surprised. I want to meet somebody one day, and I'm just like, do it then, like in public.
Just
Come
on
on,
demand.
yeah, do it. I'm watching, and they're like, no, yeah. That yeah, somebody said Marvel's no superhero orgasm person
Or orgasm, or I'm trying to
or
think of like
or
I feel like a good alliteration thing.
orgasmo.
Or yeah, I guess orgasm is a good one.
Yeah, he just stands there and he just nuts on himself and then goes home. Like he
He's like,
doesn't
I
actually
have to
fight.
clean my pants. One
The only
moment, and
crime he fights is that he just makes people incredibly uncomfortable. Yeah.
but like he's the one who's actually gonna save the day, like not Captain Marvel, like in like the in like a Thanos situation. It'll be like Thanos is like, I don't even know who you are,
Yeah.
and he's like, oh, and
Oh.
Thanos is just like, oh god, oh my
Yeah.
god.
He just snaps himself out of existence instead. He's like, I don't want to exist anymore.
He's like
Yeah.
Carl Havoc in that that I don't
Yeah.
want to, or I think you should
Yeah.
leave sketch where
I
he's
don't
like,
want to
I
be
don't want to
here
be around
anymore.
anymore.
Yeah. What do you mean by that, buddy? Yeah. Silent duck.
I like it.
Yeah. Also, I got to show you this. I put this up. It's
Yes,
just because this
I
is
keep
Kim
seeing
Jong.
it at the
Yeah, it's
corner of
just
my
in the
eye. It's
background.
terrifying.
This is him as a dark elf, but they considered that they kick him out of the group immediately because they tell him he can't they tell him it's racist. And then he tells them they're racist. And then his character dies immediately, so he's not even in the whole episode. He's just in like a little tiny bit of it. And they're like, whole episode pulled because of this Asian guy wearing black makeup.
I
Yeah.
think I don't know. I think I hope we're done with this. Like
I hope so too.
I'm tired of this. I mean, like I understand that there are certain things like definitely like that are out of dated references or whatever, but like why not just put like the warning before the movie, like when they were doing it with Disney and stuff, just be like, hey, this movie was made in this era. You know, things are a little different, but
Yeah.
enjoy. You know, I just don't like the idea of them pulling things or editing things out. But then again, I don't know. Maybe because kids are very impressionable and they repeat things. So maybe you don't want kids running around being like, why is the red man red? You know, like maybe. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, but also, yeah, it's a weird thing because once again, time, like at what point does history being what it is, you go, okay, this was historically bad. And you can explain why it was bad or why we don't do it anymore versus being like, no, that never existed, that never happened. And then one day somebody coming around to like the same conclusions on their own, like about things, but having to go through it all over again. Like you can't yell at somebody, don't be racist, if they have no context for what racism is.
Right. Like you won't show any of it. And also like, I think we're taking away people's ability to become free thinkers and their ability to or critically think because we're doing their thinking for them. And so I think we should be, I don't know, I'm kind of against banning things. I think like I mean maybe it's like certain contexts, yes, but like I know a lot of people were like excited about like in Florida them banning this or that. I feel like in schools, instead of banning an ideology, you should have to be required to teach the competitive ideology. Like you have, if you're going to teach this, you have to teach both.
Yes.
So I think a lot of teachers would be like, well, I don't want to teach the conservative version of this, or I don't want to teach the other version. So then I just won't teach it all if that's the thing. Cause I think that's fair to be like, okay, cool. Yeah. Are you going to teach an ideology that might be extreme? Then you have to teach the other extreme, or you have to teach the counterpoint so that kids can learn to think for themselves. That's kind of so then that way you don't really have government wielding their power in a way that's like, I'm banning an ideology I don't like. It's like, okay. But if you're going to do the 1619 project in school, then you have to also do, I don't know, whatever the equivalent. They did like a 1776 project or something like that. Like,
what's this? I don't even know what the 1619 project is.
It was it Nicole Hannah something? She's like this like college professor, and she wrote this book about like how the American Revolution was actually fought over slavery, which it wasn't, but she's later tried to recant that and be like, that's not what I meant. But like, that's literally what the whole thesis was that the American Revolution was not fought over America's freedom. It was fought over slavery. So really this country was founded on slavery and based on, you know, black people and all that. And so I think there's some other historical inaccuracies, but it's been debunked. And so when people say that, oh, they don't want to teach the 1619 project, they're like, people say, "Oh, it's because they're being racist." It's like, no, it's because if you're going to teach my kid history, teach them history. Don't teach
Yeah.
revisionist or wishful thinking history, or I
Yeah.
don't know, retconned weird kind of stuff.
I
Like
think
that's why I don't want
revisionist.
teaching it.
Yeah, the revisionist history is like the term I use. Yeah, where they just go back and like make and like remove all the bad things about history, and then but then also tell the same people that they just erase the bad stuff about history, and but then tell them that they're victims of like a systemic problem.
Hmm.
So you like completely erase all the bad stuff about history and then tell people that they're victims of like a systemic problem that doesn't exist because you can't see it. So you have no context for it. They're like, don't be a Nazi, but then like don't want to tell anybody, teach people
What
about
a
what that
Nazi
is.
is.
Yeah. Or
That's
why it's bad. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's probably why people can call anybody alt right or call anybody a white supremacist now. And it's like maybe
Yeah.
it's because people don't remember what that actually is. Because actual Nazis and actual white supremacists are terrifying. Like I remember
Yes.
in middle school, I stumbled across a message board somewhere, and it was like, oh, like it was dark and it was fucked
Mm-hmm.
up. And like I also stumbled across a really banging white supremacist girl group. I think they've disbanded since, and they've realized the error of their ways. But they were like these two like blonde Aryan like I don't know 13-year-old girls, and it was like a teeny bop, like they sounded like Hanson, and their band was called Prussian Blue, and they had some bops, but it was about like race war, but it was like yeah. And
Stop
so
the black people. And they're like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so it was very much like, I found stuff like that, which was maybe on the less scary side, but then I definitely found stuff where they were like, "Oh yeah, here's our plan to kill all the,
Yeah.
N words and whatnot." Like, and it's just like there are actually scary, hateful people out there, but they're in the minority. And by
Yeah.
calling everything, by doing the boy who cried racism, you're basically making those people be able to blend into society better. And you're also turning more people to want to join them because you're alienating the people who actually aren't racist, but they're like, you know what, fuck you. Like I'm tired, you've
Yeah.
made me lose my job, or you've made me you've tarnished my public reputation because I questioned something, or I had an opinion you didn't like, or I said something you
Yeah.
didn't like. And so then who are they going to go to when they're alienated from every other place? The other angry white people who are a little bit more angrier and whiter than them and are
Yep.
like, hey, wanna come to the barbecue? We got crosses and cool robes.
Yeah, you can come hang with us, buddy. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you teach people to resent other people when you force people to like have a certain perspective and not come
Mhm.
to conclusions on their own. Because but then that would mean the concern is that everybody's inherently racist and there's no way to like be anything other than that, and so you have to like teach it out of people versus just instilling the values of treating people like they're supposed to be treated.
Yeah,
Like, yeah. By the way, I
like
want to show you this last
horseshit. 'Cause
blackface.
everybody's horseshit,
Yeah,
so they should all be treated like it
everybody needs to
equally.
be. Yeah. This is a guy named Farron Hamlin, and he was a councilman or something like that in Virginia. Anyways, he went for 1 year for Halloween as sexual chocolate. I may have mentioned this on this stream before. I know I've shared this
I
before in
think
different
I've seen
places.
this. Yeah, do
Yeah, and
it.
here's the thing: like, if you're gonna do blackface, which you shouldn't, there's no reason to do it. Like, this is the way to do it. Like, this guy looks amazing. Like, look at his costume, really kind of slaps. Like,
I think it's funny, but I also
it is,
I understand the historical context of it, but at the same time,
but this isn't that.
yeah,
Like, this is Eddie Murphy dressed as like in costume as a character, and this guy's going, "I'm going to be that character." Like, I don't know. I just think that that's a weird one. I mean, I obviously, yeah, like you shouldn't. That's the thing about the context of like blackface is not good, but at the same time, like, Dave Chappelle putting on like white makeup and pretending he's a white guy is hilarious.
hmm
And part of the hilarity is because it's not because he's trying to say like, oh, I'm a caricature of white people. He's saying it's funny because I'm not white, but I'm pretending that I know what the white experience is like.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
This is reminding me. So, somebody said, Rolling Chairs said, "Have y'all seen the Japanese singing show where a guy does blackface and does a Louis Armstrong song?"
I have
I have
no answer.
not.
Oh
That sounds
God.
incredible, but it also reminded me of this sketch that I saw. Hold on, let me.
All right, while you do that, I will be right back.
Oh, You gotta
Don't
do it
freak
while
out.
I'm trying to do something. Oh no.
Yeah. Oh, well, never mind. I'll wait till you talk to the chat. Well, you normally talk to the chat about this.
I'm normally like, oh, hold on, opening a new window. Okay,
Amanda's rusty.
go fap, go pet your dog or whatever you
Yeah.
said
Well,
you were gonna do.
I gotta go pet my dog really quick because this conversation is getting really hot and heavy. So, yeah.
All right. Let me see. Draconic Dungeon Demiurger says Dave Chappelle drinking game starts again. Listen, he's he is the OG. What do we say now? He's bussing, he's banging, he's not capping. Share screen. Boo-doo-doo. Come back, Mike. I want to show you this video. Oh, God.
Right here. You're good. That was amazing, by the way. You did a good job, man. I'm proud of you.
What?
Just, you did a good job. I'm proud of you for doing your thing.
Don't patronize me, you piece of shit.
Okay, I'll try not to.
I don't know how to make this bigger.
That's what she said.
Can you, when I play it, can you hear it?
I can, yes. I can hear it.
Nope. It sounds like it's through. It sounds like it's through my computer.
Oh, sounds fine to me. I mean,
well, you're dumb.
I mean, I'm not the one having trouble with this stream right now.
Okay. Well,
remember, guys, this is what we came back for. It's been so long. We had to, yeah.
Okay.
It's only been like 2 weeks, though, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
2 weeks is a long time, though.
You've been gone for a bit. You'd be like, I can't make it. So then I had a guest on.
That's right. Yeah.
I had Gothics on. We did Insanity. That makes it sound like
she's only had black people on her show so far.
It's weird. I'm like, I've never had this many black friends in my life in real life, but all my internet friends tend to be like brown, even like quarter black Garrett. Like, not all of them are brown, but I would say like I'm like Animane. Sorry, Animane, I outed you as black, but I guess you call yourself the Negromancer, so I'm sure.
I like how like every person she's gone through so far has been black. She's like, all my friends are, oh yeah,
like my Gothic soul.
The last white friend you had, you killed.
Listen, he was technically a black albino.
I mean, yeah, that's fair enough.
You know, so okay.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to figure out why it was playing through the speakers. Maybe that was just for me, but I don't want it to be. I don't. Okay.
I do think this is an interesting conversation. I do agree. If a white, I don't know what a white bit wears a Miles Morales costume, is that okay? Is it only okay if he doesn't act like Miles Morales? Kind of like It's Always Sunny. What's the line to not cross? I think that's an interesting conversation, like, because I know people in like that have talked about one of their favorite comic book characters is Storm. So they're like want to dress as Storm, but they're like, but Storm is black. So like, should I like try to be accurate to that? Or should I like not worry about it? And I usually tell people like, well, you don't worry about it because it's not about you you're not misappropriating a black character, because it's no different than if a black person plays a white character. Because trying to look accurate to the person, I don't know, it seems disingenuous. Like, you don't need to like have dark skin unless, you're in a play, I guess, where you're trying to play that. But that's the thing, like Denzel Washington doing Shakespeare, like, that he's not supposed to be in Shakespeare, but that's not really that important. You care less about that because it's, once again, like your mind is saying like, oh, this person's acting and doing this thing. So I guess that's where like the line is for me, is like the acting and where the context of things is.
Honestly, also, I think it's just that, like, so in theater, we used to be way more like, we used to be the first place that was colorblind. Like, literally, like, you'd have black people playing the parents of white people. Like, it didn't, unless it was like a play where it mattered, like where race was specific to the play. A lot of times it really was like a meritocracy. It was like, hey, this was the best actor for the role. Like, and we understood, because in theater, you're already suspending your disbelief. You're in a big room watching people on stage. So everybody kind of already understands, like, yeah, it's implied that we're supposed to just know that they're a family or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not that crazy to do like race bent casting. What's annoying is that now it's become not just like highly encouraged, it's the norm. Like, you get in trouble if you don't do it. And I'm like, no, that cheapens it, and it takes it away from actors like me, because most of the auditions I'm getting now, that where they like request me, like casting will be like, oh, you were specifically requested on this one. It's always just because I'm brown. And that
Hmm.
pisses me off that like my whole personage, like my personality, my brains, my sense of humor, whatever, that's not what they're thinking about. They're literally just like tokenizing me and I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
So that's what bothers me now is that it used to be cool. It used to be a cool move when TV or whatever would race bend, or like Nick Fury or whatever. Like, in the
Yeah.
beginning, like 10 years ago, maybe it was kind of more like, oh, that's a cool move.
Yeah.
Now it's so predictable that it's like, I don't want it. I don't like
Yeah.
it's not that I don't want to see representation. It's not that I don't want to see people of all walks of life on screen. I just don't want to see it where I know that you're doing it on purpose to get brownie points, to get me to go like a clapping seal and be like, "Yay!" Like
Yeah.
it cheapens
That's
it for
weird.
the actors, it cheapens it for the audience because you're just I don't know, trying to and also the fact that they're using it because they know that they're going to get people who push back against it and then they're going to try and pitch the PR campaign to say like, look at all the racists as opposed to like,
Yeah.
look at the people with reasonable objections to this.
Yeah.
And it drives me nuts that because then we're just being used more as pawns. Like you're using, the brown folk as pawns for your marketing campaign because you know that we're going to be the target of a bunch of internet hate, and
Yep.
it's not like even like Little Mermaid, seeing a lot of the videos that even people, even like people in the space where we agree with them, I still don't like seeing her face being used and like they ugly her up and whatever and like make her
Hmm.
look like "Duh." It's like it's not her fault she was cast in that role. This is probably
Hmm.
a dream role for her. Get
Yeah.
mad at Disney, so anyway, I'm just
No,
ranting,
100%.
but
Yeah.
it drives me nuts to use people as your PR campaign because you're too lazy to make a good product.
Hmm.
So, because if you had a good product, you could market it as, hey, we just have a good product, as
Yeah.
opposed to, hey, we have a regurgitated pile of dog shit, but we put a black coat of paint on it, so you
Yeah.
better watch it or else.
Yeah. Or don't criticize this thing because criticizing it is inherently racist, which it's like that's not how that works. Like that's not how criticism works. Yeah. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you on that.
Star-crossed line says, working on my parents' deck the last couple days. I'm browner than you are. Where's my rolls? Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that should be how it works. I guess.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, yep. It's just I don't know, man. It's a weird like place to be in today, like watching that happen and watching, like you said, like people going, "Oh, I'm just casting you for like your because you're brown or whatever," because that the experience then says like all you are is the culmination of whatever like your skin color is. But then they tell everybody like everybody is beautiful. I don't know. It's just so weird. But then like there's so I should say not never, but there's so like little like innovation or attempts to like a show like Bridgerton. Like
mhm.
they're like, hey, what if black people were in Victorian England? And you're like, they were. And like, what if they were like part of high society? And like they were. Like, what if like half of the characters in that world are black? And it's like, like you're like, okay, fine. Like, it's just like at some point the premise is about like the hook is there are black characters in the show.
Yeah, I don't know if Bridgerton would be as popular if it was all white people. Like, it's literally
Yes.
the fact that it is diverse that suddenly makes it a better show. Like, I mean, like, sure, it'd be fun. Like, I think Jane Austen fans would like it either way because it's like, I mean, I know it's not Jane Austen who wrote it, but I'm saying it's the
Yeah.
same kind of demographic. But
Hmm.
like, diversity should not be your selling point. It should be like a afterthought, like, oh, well, this is just who we cast, but as
Yeah.
opposed to this is who we cast because we want the show to be, we want people on TikTok to be like, oh my god, yes, and it's
Yeah.
just it fucking it's fucking sucks because I don't know how we get back from this because now anytime there's any diversity, people go, oh, okay, it's probably woke, and it's like, no,
Yeah.
like there are plenty of projects that are great, and there's a project that's and it annoys me because I wrote a TV pilot or I wrote the premise. I was trying to do a pitch for it about this guy who was actually in was it 1700s France, named Le Chevalier Saint Georges, and he was basically like a mixed race. He was like half black, half white, and he lived in France. And he was like this big like he was best friends with like Marie Antoinette. He
Damn.
got a position to run I think it's like the Paris Opera. And I mean, the reason he didn't
Damn.
get it was because the three top the three top divas who sang there were like, we don't want a black guy leading the theater. But he was like a top, like a master violinist who's a great composer. Mozart
Wow.
was inspired by him and actually
Oh
stole
yeah.
stole some hooks from him, and now they're making a movie about him called
Yeah.
Chevalier. So I'm like, I'm happy they're telling the story, but I'm also annoyed because I'm like, I tried to pitch it like several years ago and nobody had heard of him, and now I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck. But that's a story that's real. That's like, there's so many cool people of color or whatever throughout history that actually did really cool things, and their like stories are being lost to time because you want black, like regurgitated Disney characters.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Like they're like, yeah, we don't want actual black people. We want like what fits our like line of black people. Like, yeah. Which is funny because in the same vein of you learn about Chevalier, because I learned about him recently too. A few years ago, I learned about a person named Baz Reeves.
Mm-hmm.
And Baz Reeves was an American law enforcement officer, and he had over 3,000 arrests in his career. Which is like crazy good. And he was a U.S. Marshal, and you never hear about him at all. Like he's like, relatively unknown. And I discovered him a few years back, was reading about him and how good of a police officer, or not a police officer, like a U.S. Marshal and like a deputy he was. And he was like an amazing lawman, and nobody talks about him or does anything about him. And I'm like, that's really weird. Like that nobody like gives him the time of day. And then all of a sudden this movie comes out called The Harder They Fall on Netflix.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
Idris Elba.
Yep, Idris Elba. And then Baz Reeves is a character in it. And now there's another actor, David Oyelowo, is doing like a whole series about Baz Reeves.
And
I'm
there's
like,
there's a play off Broadway about him now too. Like, I mean,
oh my
it's great when
gosh.
they discover these things, but it's just annoying when it's like, God, I could have been there first.
Yeah. You're like, damn it. Like, why now? But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, all the bloviating about we need to tell black stories, we need diversity representation. There's a whole lot of people and resources available to tell these stories that people don't know a lot about, that are not like super crazy popular, about like different black or Hispanic or whatever characters with diversity representation. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. We'd actually favor, doing something a little bit more homogenized for the sake of it, or stealing something else and then doing race swapping to like support it, in a way.
Right. They're like, oh, this is already like an unasked for reboot. Or even like Moana. Like Moana's not even 10 years old and they're rebooting it already. And I mean,
Yep.
obviously it's already a diverse story, so it's not quite the best analogy, but it's just like nobody
Yeah.
asked for these reboots. So they're already like on shaky legs, and then they're like, oh, how do we like prop it up, like tape it to like a stronger leg? And they're like, brown people.
Brown people. Yeah. What if Little Mermaid black? And you're like,
Yeah.
okay. Yep.
I'm
got
listening.
It. Yep. And they're like, no, that's it. What if Little Mermaid black? Yep.
It drives me nuts. I'm hoping it's almost over because I'm so tired of being looked at like at least in Hollywood, like in my own industry,
Yeah.
as just brown. Like
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I was raised in an Air Force upbringing, so we didn't have, I don't know, in my experience, the race wasn't really a big thing. It was more of like, I don't know, we were all integrated on the base, or we were integrated.
Yeah.
Like race wasn't constantly talked about.
Yeah.
So we saw each other as like individuals. And when I came back to the States, that's when it started being like more of a thing. So like back like when Florida or whatever, like that's when people are like, are you white or are you black? I'm like, nobody's asked me these things before. Like, why does it matter? And I don't know. I just feel like in the industry, it's the same experience of just constantly being like, okay, I'm trying to reorganize my thoughts. Basically, maybe it's because I'm not fully black or whatever. Maybe that would be a different experience for me if people, because I feel like a lot of people identify themselves as their race or as, maybe it makes more sense to identify yourself as your culture. Like if you're like, hey, I'm from Atlanta, like that's like its own culture. Like maybe I can understand that. Or I'm Korean, like that's a culture versus just like, oh, I'm Asian. Like I'm wondering, like that to me seems more okay to be like, oh yeah, I identify with other people who have a similar cultural upbringing to me.
Yeah.
So like I would probably identify more with Air Force brats than I ever would with the people who are just like, I'm black. It's like that's not an experience to me.
Yep.
So
100%.
it's weird in Hollywood for them to be like, oh well, as a black person, you must have gone through this. I was like, what? No.
Yeah.
Like
like that's a weird generalization and not at all accurate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's bizarre to
Yeah.
me, and it's I don't know, I'm so over it, but I keep auditioning because 'cause I'm like, "Well, I gotta work," and, like, my agent's like, "Just shut up and audition,"
Yeah.
because like, she's like, "You're now if they're only looking for BIPOC actors," which now it's, PGM they've started
Yeah,
putting.
saw you mention that. What was PGM again?
I think it's persons of a global majority. So now it's not just enough to say, "Oh, people of color." It's like we're reminding you, like, actually, outside of America, most of the world is Asian and brown. It's like, okay, but like, it's not a competition.
Yeah.
So
And also, when you get over there, it doesn't matter about like maybe your skin color, but you know what does matter, like your religion or your ideologies and
your status, your
your
class, like
status. Yeah.
those matter more over there. Like
Yep. 100%.
it's
Dude.
it's weird to see like when I was saying this on Carrie's show, acting breakdowns, which is like when you get an audition, they'll break down like with a character role what they're looking for. That's usually the first place I'll see the new terminology updated because I feel like Hollywood and acting and all that is at the forefront of like
Yeah.
the garbage. So they're like now it's not Latinx, it's Latine.
My God.
L A
They
T
didn't
I
even
N
want
E.
Latinx in the first place.
No, like they're like, Latin people don't like Latinos don't like Latinx. How do we fix this? Latine. It's like, no, that was not their complaint. Their complaint is that you're trying to change their language to fit like an ideology that 2% of people have.
Yeah.
Latine is not going to fix it.
Goodness gracious.
So yeah, Latine, PGM, so persons of a global minority, and then ADOS I've seen. So African descendants of slaves. So not just black. Now we have to divide the black people based off, oh, are you Nigerian? Like your parents came from directly from Africa? You didn't suffer? You're not one of us. Now it's ADOS, we're descendants of slaves. Like somebody in our bloodline suffered.
So stupid. Like, wow.
Oh, this is
Go ahead.
smart. Starcross Line says it's a bunch of folks trying to take us back to the old world and calling it the new world.
Yeah, 100%. I actually watched an episode of the one show where the guy it's on PBS where the guy like takes people back to their ancestry and they get to like hear all about their ancestry. Yeah. And he had one lady on who's like a huge like advocate for like black people and stuff like that. And it came out that like one of her relatives was a slave and she's like, I knew it. I always knew. And she's like, getting all like touched and stuff. And then he's like, also, we traced your bloodline back even farther and found out that your ancestors came on the Mayflower. And she's like, what? And they're like, yeah, you were one of the first colonizers to come here. And she's like, I don't know what to do with that information. I don't know how to feel about that right now. Like, I'm not like, it was fine when she was like, oh, you were the victim, you poor thing. She's
Right.
like, yes, I always knew it. But then they're like, actually, like, you weren't that much of a victim because, and she's like, well, I don't know what to think. I don't want to talk about that right now. And it's like, okay, well, you did the first, you did the first time. Like, it's okay to like not be related to slaves.
Oh, and also it's like you did literally nothing to be related to somebody. Also, you did literally nothing to be black or white or whatever you were born as. It's literally just the luck of the draw and if your parents boned the right person. Like, oh, this like it's if your parents did the work. You did not do anything. So it's just weird that we're rewarding people or giving them roles based off who their parents boned. If you boil it down to that, or
100%,
or who they bone. So it's like, now, and I have a friend who's gay and he's like, I don't tell them that I'm gay because I don't want them to pigeonhole me. But now he's like, but now I don't get like, he's like, I'm not, there's these databases basically. They're not legally allowed to ask you what your orientation is. But they're now creating databases for actors who are gay or queer or trans or whatever to be able to voluntarily put themselves in. So they can be like, when we have trans or gay roles, we want you to be the first ones. And my friend's like, I don't think it's any of their business who I sleep with or like who puts things in me and who I put things in.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. But and it's weird, because like it's weird to be like, we only have a character of this orientation playing this orientation or whatever, because then you're basically saying that nobody like acting is not pretend; it has to be as real as possible.
Yeah,
or
like
something.
let
Yeah.
gay actors can play straight, straight actors can play gay. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, if you can't turn off, like if you have certain affects that you've adopted, like that to be
Hmm.
like, I'm part of this community.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's going to see you as straight unless you work on it. It's the same thing that I had to do. I'm not great at it, but I had
Yeah.
to take dialect coaching to sound blacker for certain roles. So like if you have a lisp, you got an accent, you got you got a little bit of like a queer eye for the straight guy thing going on where you're like, yes, hunty. Like if you take dialect coaching, then sure, you can play straight people.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know. It's
No, it's a
acting is a
mess.
weird world.
Yeah, it is a weird world, and like you said, I think that's sometimes like something that people miss too, like how what it's like for somebody in the context of actually pursuing acting or pursuing a career in Hollywood and things like that. What it's like for them versus like sometimes what it's like on the outside, and how you can look at the outside and kind of have critiques versus when you're in it and you see what it's really like. And how sometimes entrenched certain ideas are even in like about what's acceptable, what isn't acceptable, and stuff like that. And like you talked about on Carrie's show, like how impossible it is to keep up with like the standards and the ideas that they want to like push for. Like, the new languages, constant new languages, and the constant shame of like, well, change what you're saying and don't say that, or be inclusive to this or be inclusive to that, or yeah, it's kind of a mess. And it's sad that it's gotten politicized so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the same time, like, I don't know that I don't know if that's necessarily on people. Like when I say people, I'd be like, I don't think that's on like regular people out there. Like I kind of feel like that's on a lot of these like companies and corporations and stuff because they're the kind of ones that have pulled the trigger on deciding to judge things differently.
I
Yeah.
also like are there any classes that you believe could potentially be that should be protected? Because for me, I think disability, like if you're like, hi, I can't walk, like, yeah, we
Mm.
should have like, what is it? Was it ADA or whatever, the American Disabilities Act, where like, actually, I'm not 100% sure what that one did. I thought it was,
Yeah, I don't know either.
I was about to say that I think it like set standards for like, there should be closed captioning on TV for like the hearing impaired, or there
Yeah.
should be, like ramps on buildings, because like I've seen that lately where I'm like, how the hell would somebody who's like in a wheelchair get up in this building? Like the elevator's always broken,
Yeah.
like stuff like that. Like I very much am like, yeah, we should make a space for these people where it's like, hey, let's help them because they literally can't do certain things, and that makes it harder for them. But like just because
100%.
you're black doesn't mean you can't do things. Just because
Yeah.
you're gay doesn't mean you can't do things. So I don't think, to me, now that we're no longer in the Jim Crow South, I don't believe
Yeah.
race or sexuality should be necessarily a protected class in the same way.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
if anything, I would say like I think your attractiveness and your socioeconomic status have more of a role in how your life is going to play out than your race or your gender
100%.
or anything like that.
Yeah. I absolutely 100% agree with that. Well, and like, you were saying like about your boyfriend, like growing up as a poor white person, you meet poor black people and
Mm-hmm.
you guys are all kind of in the same boat together.
That's the thing, is like he's like we got along, like because we were
Yeah.
all in the same boat, and like we were all poor, and we all like it's weird how, to me, socioeconomics, I mean, it's not weird, it's very well documented, the socioeconomics and having a two-parent household. I will put caveats on that. Not all two-parent households are great. A lot of them are real fucking like real fucked up.
Yeah.
But having the support of two incomes, two parents who care about your education or whatever, has been
Yeah.
shown to like give you better outcomes than, and that's like not dependent on race. And then socioeconomics
Yeah.
also can like tank your thing. But even then, he's like, I grew up poor. I still can't stand poor people.
It's funny.
The
Yeah.
part of it's because it's like he said for him, like there's an attitude that people have, and
Yeah.
he's like, when I was in the trailer park, he's like, people didn't take pride in their work, they didn't take pride in their shit, like they like let things be run down, and they didn't try to
Hmm.
take care of what they had, and they didn't. I mean, I don't want to make assumptions about all poor people, but he said like there are certain people who get out of it, and there's people who
Yeah.
don't, and it's not a luck thing. He's like, a lot of them who get out of it have a certain attitude or mindset where they will
Yeah.
not be they won't allow themselves to play the victim. Ugh,
Yeah.
I hate the way I phrase that because it makes it sound like anybody who is still poor is playing victim, and I'm not saying that per
Mm-mm.
se, but there are a lot of people who do that. I can't change my situation. It is what it is.
Yeah, I was stuck here forever and stuff. I 100%. Yeah, and there's like that, there's that fine line. To like the point of having like multiple government like um political parties would be so that there's a middle ground instead of one
Mhm.
side dominating over the other. But the idea of like putting yourself up by the bootstraps, well, that's important. If you can work and you can get yourself out of a hole and things like that, you should definitely try to attain that. But then there are people, like you said, like people that are like disabled and stuff that don't have that ability. I had a friend who she had like multiple like crippling mental illness, just like mental illnesses, and like regardless of how people feel about mental health, for her specifically, they were a lot, and she wasn't able to work
Mm.
at first. It took a lot of work for her. Eventually she was able to get a job, but like, like you said, like taking care of certain people, they can't take care of themselves is one thing, but that's not what, that's not
It's
how things are measured anymore.
It's yeah, it should be children, it should be, people who are physically or mentally disabled and, like, cannot look after themselves or
Yeah.
have a harder time with it. Yeah, I'm all for, like, a safety net or something like that for them. As much as I, like, hate
Yeah.
government, I can't really think of an alternative, just being like, "Oh, just, be independent and just do your own thing." It's like, not everybody can do that. In an
Yep.
ideal world, we would take care of them, and we would all watch out for them. But until
Yeah.
then, like I'm not opposed, and that's why I don't say I'm a pure libertarian because like I feel like pure libertarians are like no government, but I'm like
Yeah.
no, like I'm not crazy. Like there are people who would not survive if we did not have something in place
Yeah.
for them. Like like I just
Absolutely.
but we don't
Yeah.
need programs for like to help. I don't know. To help somebody who's bisexual get into comedy writing. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
just like I don't
No,
know why we
100%.
need
Why, like,
diversity
why
and
do
equity initiatives there.
yeah, like, why do you need a bisexual person to do comedy writing? If they're a good comedy writer, regardless of whether or not what they put their dick or vagina into, like, that doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Or
it's
whether or not
all
they're
about
black or white. Yeah.
it's all that's what all this boils down to? All this, like, identity politics stuff just boils down to holes. It boils down to what holes your parents put things into, whose holes, what those, what gender or, like,
Yeah.
what race those holes were, and
Yeah.
then for you, what holes you put things in,
Yeah.
or who puts things in you. That's all this boils down to.
It's amazing. It's actually really good though. Wow. The holes. It's all about holes.
All about the holes, man.
It's all about the holes.
It
No, that is not true. Her boyfriend's name was White Mike, and he is dead.
Yeah. Please don't talk about him anymore. Get White Mike's name out your fucking mouth.
Wow. Wow. No, speaking of light skins, yeah. Will Smith. Poor
He's
guy.
not that light skinned.
No, that's true.
Actually, I guess maybe is he about your color? Maybe a little darker?
Maybe. I've never met him.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with this. To me, I feel like charities and like nonprofits would be way better equipped to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I do think there should be something in place for people who, I'm like dropping them, clicking buttons.
Wow.
So, oh, I thought White Mike was your husband because you were a widow. No, so he never got to propose to me because I was too busy verbally berating him, and then he
Yeah.
killed himself. But eventually, I know he was going to propose because I would have made him propose.
Yeah,
But
she would have been like, by the
yeah.
way, yeah.
I'm like, I made him sell his mother's, I don't know, ashes,
Yeah.
or like I made him kill his own mother and get her life insurance money to buy me a ring.
Yeah, isn't it fabulous? That's really
Yes,
wow.
White Mike was a good boy who knew his place.
Oh, God.
And then Ruby made a White Mike too, and I think he died too. I haven't heard from him in a long time.
See?
Yeah, maybe White Mike's
It's just yeah, not her, please.
White Mike's are survival. No, Ruby was the one interacting with this one, and she was much nicer to him.
Oh.
I think White Mike's it's survival of the fittest. I think they're weak and inferior. They're bad genetics. I mean, actually, eugenicist, and I think all White Mikes should not exist anymore.
Oh, jeez. We went in a very different direction with that one. Yeah.
Stop appropriating Black Widow culture.
All
I'll
right.
do what I want. Who says I'm appropriating? I started it. I'm the original Black Widow. I got my body, my
Mm,
garden is fertilized with all my ex-husbands,
wow,
okay?
it's kind of terrifying.
That's what I
Hey,
put on my dating profile. I was like, "My body is fertilized with all my exes. You wanna be some petunias?
wow,
What you
yeah.
wanna be, boy? Grow me some potatoes."
Wow, that actually sounds like that does sound like a good premise for like either a sitcom or a show. Like,
What, like a Black Widow who's, like, trying to online date?
yeah,
She's she's trying to find
like
love.
the whole show is about her like dating these different people and then just deciding to kill them. Yeah, and then just doing burying them on the
Called a popo ho.
call it a popo. Um, I have to fix my camera. My camera is being really weird. That's why I
Is
keep
it your
going off
camera that's
camera.
shaking your arm and making it do this?
Yeah, I'm like, just gotta fix my camera real quick.
Yeah, I guess
Pet my
gotta fix.
dog.
Yeah. You turn the camera off, but you forget to turn the sound off, and you're like,
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Oh, the camera's perfect. All right. 1 second. I'll be right back again. Also, it's funny because I go back and rewatch these later, and I like
You do?
watching Amanda. Yeah, I go back and rewatch these because I like finding good clips to share with people. I also like going off camera and then coming back and then rewatching to watch how Amanda reacted while I was gone.
I'll just sit here and cry.
Have you ever seen Wayne's World?
Yes, a long time
Okay.
ago.
Or it happens in Wayne's World too. There's like a part where Dana Carvey's character gets left alone on camera, and they're just like, bro, this is bad or whatever, and he has like a meltdown on camera. So that's kind of what I hope is happening. Is sometimes I'll just leave, just to come back and hope that Amanda's in complete crisis.
I
So
should. Well, now you've set it up so that I have to have a crisis. Now I can't perform on demand. I can't have an
I
emotional
didn't say
breakdown.
I didn't say you have to. I'm just saying maybe you do when I'm gone. Listen, you got this. I believe in you. I will be right
You
back.
believe in my mental breakdown abilities?
Yes.
I appreciate that. Thanks,
You're
Mike.
so welcome.
You
Listen,
you're a
you're
real one.
emotional. I believe this. I may be the strongest believer in your mental instability and emotional frailty. So yeah, that's how,
You're my favorite.
that's how that's why she chose me as a co-host. She's
If
like,
anyone
yeah,
believes you are emotionally and mentally unstable, it is
yeah,
me.
yeah. I will be there for you to watch you break down. I will absolutely be right there. And she's like, oh, that's so
And
sweet. I'm
I'm
like,
gonna
no.
clip the shit out of it.
I'm like, I'm not doing it to help you. And she's like, oh, that's
Mm.
wonderful. Yeah. All right. I'll be right back.
All right, do your thing. Also, my camera might crap out in a second because I too have to pet my dog. No, I was trying to do something with my camera and now it's updating and it's like, please make sure you're not using this for any sort of live stream. I'm like, what's gonna happen? Is the world gonna end? Um, yeah, Max says Care Bear stare time. I do wonder what would happen if I just stared and see like if people just tune into the stream, if they would stay or if they would leave. I can't not blink. So suck it up. You're gonna go into my eyeball, into my brain. It's all fuzzy now. The camera, not my eyeball. Jesus. Oh no, now I fucked up the camera angle. Listen, I'm gonna tell mom and dad. You're not being very nice. Oh no, now I feel like it's like from above. Hold on. Uh, uh. I guess I should probably see now you're cheating because you're moving around. I know. So, oh, you want me to be still? Is that the challenge? Okay.
What did I come back to? Like, I know she's not frozen because I can see her moving and blinking, but like, here's the thing: I unplugged my headphones so I could hear her, and it just sounds like somebody that doesn't know they're on camera talking to themselves.
Like what?
Like you're just like, oh, I wonder what. Oh, my camera's gonna restart. I wonder what'll happen if I just like stare. Huh? And I'm like, who is she talking to? Like, because it doesn't sound like you're talking to the chat. It just sounded like you were just randomly just talking to yourself and ignoring the entire chat here.
I mean, that's pretty much what the stream is, I think. Um, Speaking of ignoring the entire chat, I'm just kidding. That seems like a terrible time to do a segue. I'm gonna start doing memberships. I like it didn't open it.
Speaking of ignoring all of you, would you like to be a member of my channel?
Do you want to get paid to be ignored? No,
Yeah.
actually, I have ideas for that I've been wanting to do, but I'm like, I'm not doing that for the regular channel. But
Yeah.
like there's certain things where I'm like, that's not stuff I'd want to air publicly, but I would definitely do a live stream about it or whatever. So like I want to do right now I'm thinking about like 2 different tiers, so we'll see. But yeah,
Two different tiers.
2 different tiers and like
Yeah.
some of the things I don't know, like you can let me know if you're like that's gay, but I was like even just like on the basic tier, I was like, it could be really fun to like if you tell like I don't know how exactly it works, like if you're able to communicate with your members, but like if you tell us when your birthday is, we would shout it out like in a community post and also like in the video. We're like, hey, this week we got birthdays from so and so, shout them out, like kind of like just community stuff. Discord access. We have like watch parties and stuff that we've been doing. Like all sorts of like fun things, doing like a members only live stream because I have some ideas for streams, but I'm like I will absolutely not post that on the internet like by itself, but like I would do it behind in a safe space amongst other delightsome degenerates. So
if you guys are paying me money, I know you want to attack me for saying terrible things that I want to say.
Yes, I mean, or that'd be real weird if somebody's like, I'm gonna pay you money each month because I hate you.
Yeah, this bitch, I can't wait to give her money. Hate streaming.
So yeah, actually, so Nightwalker's tier 2, Daywalker's tier 1. So I wanted to do like a day crawler, or like I was thinking of like day jogger, like having like different things. But like I was thinking of doing Nightwalker being like a tier where you get like access to like we have a thread in the Discord that's like kink and degeneracy. So it'd be more of like the 18 plus. Oop.
Yeah. Her camera did go off.
Plug it back in or select a different camera. You select a different camera, you fart knocker. Okay, hold on.
You okay there?
Is it better now? No,
you're still gone. You see this, guys? I mean, we've been doing this for a long time. Oh, she even left.
No, it's still not working.
I thought I got rid of her. Never mind.
Stop my cam. I'm a nobody now. I'm just a talking faceless avatar. Stop mic cam.
I feel abandoned, really. Censored or kink and degeneracy. No, she Starcross Line, she's been monetized for a little while. Because like she also has a Streamlabs. I don't have the link to the Streamlabs. I think Anime does. But yeah, you can send her super chats, and then she has channel memberships now, or should have channel membership. So yeah, but the Discord kink and degeneracy is pretty great. It gets really out of control. I kind of want to remove her again. What if I removed her from stream? Look at that. Look at that. I can remove her. She can't talk or anything. She's flipping me off right now. That's pretty great. Look. She can just add herself. Like, it's not like I can keep her off the stream, but yeah.
This is remember we said everything is about what holes you put things in? Yeah. This changes your status. You're now a different class because of what I've just done to you.
Of your fingers?
Mm-hmm.
What you did with your fingers?
Mm-hmm. When I went
weird.
Yeah. So anyway, the Nightwalkers thread would probably be something where it's like the 18 plus stuff where you get like, we did start in the very beginning. We did like after dark panels, which like today I'm like, this This is like still kind of 18 plus, but
Yeah,
After Dark was a lot more. We wanted to do more stuff, like more spicy stories and reacting to them and whatnot, and
yeah.
it was more uncensored. But we had some people in the chat be like, "What the fuck is this?" Because when I started, I guess I had some people who were like, I don't know if I would say if it was more conservative or more religious or whatever, but they're like, "Are you kidding me? This is disgusting." And I was like, "Ooh." So,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so
Imagine, yeah, imagine Amanda went too far on one of her streams like that. I've never seen that happen before.
yeah. So in the beginning, I was trying to be like, "Oh no, I want to please everybody and make nobody. I don't want anybody to leave." And now I'm like, "All right, well, whatever."
No.
But yeah. So there, I'm thinking of like different brainstorming, different things and
Hmm.
stuff, things and stuff. Anyway, somebody asked, "Can we get an Epic Verse update?"
No. Move on. Just kidding. I mean, there's not. Listen, this stuff takes a lot of time. And it's a lot of work to put stuff together. Amanda knows this, like behind the scenes. Producing things takes work.
Filming, editing, post
Filming,
production,
editing,
mixing.
music, sound design, all of that stuff. I will say this: we will hopefully have. Right now, we're trying to work on getting some material that we can just kind of show quick things on. So hopefully, like within the next month or so, I've been saying that for a little while, but hopefully within the next month or so, we'll have some things that we can like pump out to show you guys. Um, I will say that we have like I think 3 projects that are like officially done now. Um, that are in like the can and like good to go, and I'm really really happy with them. And so we're just going to keep working to get things done for you guys and get things ready. And hopefully maybe later this year we'll have an announcement of exactly when we're ready to like announce the launch and everything. But for now, just keep being patient, keep checking the website. We do got some things in the works as far as behind the scenes stuff. I know we have a lot of people signed up for the email, and we're working on potentially putting together like a newsletter so you guys have some updates. And then you can always check us out on Instagram and on Twitter and just kind of keep right notice for there. Like we've been dropping like little promotional things. Like today we dropped a picture of like a bloody arrow, which is like a hint to a project we're working on and stuff. So that's kind of what we got going on right now. Yeah.
I'm excited about it. Like, and we've talked about, yeah. And to answer one of your other questions, you said, "And will Daywalker ever appear in an Epic Verse film?" Yes, we've been talking about collaborating on stuff, whether it's one of his projects or one of mine. And
Yes.
yes, there will be some stuff. Also, I'm trying to get Mike and his family to move down to Georgia so that we can do this podcast and all of our filming stuff in person.
But I'm incredibly racist, and there's a lot of black people in Georgia.
There's a lot of black people in Georgia. Sorry, Mike.
Not nearly as many black people here in Michigan. That's not true at all. Literally Detroit, but I don't live near Detroit. But yeah, no, I always appreciate when people ask questions because if I have updates and I can show you guys updates, I will. Right now, I don't have a lot to update you guys on just because things are, I don't know, there's just always something else we're working on, but like some things are just not ready to be shown. So yeah. I'm trying to find here. I don't know. I can even try to see if I can find, but yeah. Oh wow. I didn't even realize this. It sounds like there's gonna be like one more season, another season of the Eric Andre show.
Okay.
And I'm just really surprised by that because like it's one of those things like I don't know how he keeps getting guests on the show every year. Like
Is it why? Is it because he's
well,
not?
have you ever watched the Eric Andre show?
I've only seen memes from it.
Okay. Well, I mean, here I can find you a clip that shouldn't get copyright struck, but like he just pranks his guests and stuff. Let me see here. He like pranks his different guests and stuff, but he also does sketches in between. Like they're usually like weird sketches. Like one of them, he was like a guy who he was wearing like one of the big like collars that like they put on animals, but he like filled it with cereal and milk and like started choking to death on it in like the subway, and people were freaking out about it. But typically he has like guests on, and they're like famous guests or whatever, and then they're like he's pranking them. They're like going through something terrible. Like sometimes like they have like somebody like where the couch is. They like somebody under the couch with like a broomstick, and they're just like jabbing it into like the guest's butt while they're like talking and stuff. And I don't know, like he just like every year gets different people to come on the show, and nobody knows how he keeps getting people to come back on the show. Let me see if I can find. Here's
blackmail
or something, because they usually don't know. Even the ones, there's sometimes ones that they do know what's going on, and even when they do know what's going on, they still aren't ready for it because Eric goes out of his way to like make sure that it's really uncomfortable for them. Let's see here. I'm trying to find one that I can like play that kind of like shows what's going on without like getting you. You know,
it's hard. I never know what it's gonna be. Also, I think at some point I saw you before I cut out. You mentioned the Streamlabs link, so here's also the Streamlabs link. Streamlabs link if you want to support us, but don't want. Well, I guess it's not even Mama Susan anymore. If you don't want the nameless void that owns YouTube now, to get it.
I like that, the nameless void.
Well, because like beforehand, because I think YouTube, like even with memberships, super chats, only like 30% of everything you give goes to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I don't know what it is for Streamlabs. It's like 10%.
I'm not sure. I think so.
It's just maybe less. That's all I know.
Yeah.
But anyway, you can pull up a clip if it's short, maybe, and we won't get in trouble.
Okay, here we go. Here's a good one. This one should be pretty quick. All right. Hopefully, I think we shouldn't get in trouble for this one, and it should be pretty quick. And we're talking about it, so I don't think
that's never stopped YouTube before. I feel like
that's very true. All right. Here's like he brought Maria Menounos, who's like that chick that like is, hi, I'm here talking about stuff before movies and films at the theaters and stuff. Yeah, so he brought her on the show, and keep in mind she does not know what's going to happen on the show as it's going on.
These are people.
Okay, Maria, select your person.
Oh my god, what is happening?
Yeah, so obvious, but yeah, she's one of the like tamer guests. This is actually a tame sketch because they've had people walk off the show before. I'm also stopping it because of copyright. But yeah, there's like one time he threw up on a desk and like pretended to throw up on a desk and ate it, and the girl got grossed out and she like walked off set and she was really upset, and he had like run out to the parking lot to let her know that it was a prank because she thought it was all real. But yeah,
still that's gross. Okay,
it was pretty bad.
Just pick a person.
Just pick a person.
Any person.
I'm gonna go for the dude in the middle. Oh, Cindy, you were gonna shoot somebody. I knew it. Oh my god, how did I know that?
It's just shit like that. Yeah, and like right there is probably I think somebody underneath her like poked her in the ass with like a stick, like underneath the stage or whatever. And he does like stuff like that all the time to his guests, and a lot of times they don't know what they're getting into. And then even like I said, sometimes they do. Like Tyler the Creator knew what the show was when he got on there, but he just acted super weird. So they'll just have like these really weird sketches. And then my favorite one was Lance Reddick, rest in peace, Lance Reddick. They got Lance Reddick to be on the show, and he kind of knew what was going on, but didn't really. But the producers approached him and they said, hey, at some point we want you to pretend to get really angry and like really pretend to be pissed off because we want to like kind of reverse the prank on Eric. And so like in the middle of the interview, he just gets up and like he just punches Eric's desk and puts a hole in the desk, and Eric's like freaking out or whatever. He's like, you need a new desk. And then he leaves, and Eric is like, oh my god, I think I pissed off Lance Reddick. And then he comes back later, and it's one of the once again, I don't know. I'm just gonna show it. He comes back onto the show at the very end, and he didn't know he was coming back. Like he thought, oh, I pissed him off, he's left. And then Lance Reddick came out dressed like this, and this is why Lance Reddick is a fucking G.
Do it.
All right, I'm gonna show it. You know what? Because I'm trying to get your channel taken down anyways. So
yeah.
So this is after Eric thought he left the show, didn't know he was still here, and then this happened.
You have to share it.
Oh, I didn't share it. Damn it! All right, I gotta back it up.
Boomer.
Listen, I don't want to hear it from you. Here we go.
Probably.
Yeah.
What?
I will have I wish I would have There's my iconic slave role.
All right, I'm gonna stop it because he says the N-word, and I know that YouTube would get mad about that. But yeah, so he just came out at the very end and did that, and they really didn't know that he was coming out to do this. And like, dude, I lost my shit. I remember watching it for the first time. Yeah, but yeah, he keeps getting he keeps getting more seasons of his show, and somehow they keep getting like people on there. One lady fired a publicist for getting them on the show. She was like, I don't know why you didn't know what was going to happen there, and how dare you get me on this. And so yeah, they got fired for that one.
Yeah, if you don't know, like that's like literally their job.
Yeah. Yep. They had no idea what was going on there. But yeah, stuff like that is I think is fucking hilarious. And yeah, I remember watching the show early on when they had no production budget whatsoever, and then they've just slowly gotten like a bigger budget as the show's gone on. But every season too, he has like a new hairstyle. Like the first season, it was just like regular hair, and then after that, like he permed it, so it was all like really straight, and like it was like a bob, like a permed bob. Like then one season he shaved off his eyebrows and his like hair was like completely bald. Like yeah, it's an interesting show. Yeah.
That I have a LeVar Burton story kind of. So when I was at a convention backstage in the green room, I was talking to Jason David Frank, also RIP, and
Yeah.
he played the Green Ranger, and he has a lot of really rowdy fans because like he would get them all like excited and like amped up. So he would
I've
be
heard
like,
about that he like was really like his fans were like crazy for him.
yeah, and so they would be in line waiting for him, and he'd be like doing like this call and response thing. It was really loud, and they're like, wow, screaming. And LeVar Burton came over to him and was like, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. It was just like the most like it was just it was funny. It's like this like scold situation of just like
Did he actually did he like chill?
I think he did a little bit, but like no.
Yeah.
It was just funny that like he's like, well, I wasn't there. So Jason David Frank was telling me, he was like, oh yeah. He was like, yeah, LeVar Burton like yelled at me.
Yeah.
He doesn't like me. And so, because I guess LeVar Burton was at the con, like, so we were back in the green room, and LeVar Burton was at the con that we were at, and he's like, yeah, that guy hates me.
Oh my gosh, that's actually kind of funny.
It's funny that there's like there's drama behind the scenes at cons, like there's also like cute stories. Like I remember Alice Cooper was backstage once, and I overheard him being like, I don't know, do you think he'd want to meet me? Like I don't think so. I don't want to bother him. He wanted to meet Tim Curry, who was also at the con. It was just so cute that like Alice Cooper was nerding out about Tim Curry.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've heard that Alice Cooper's like one of the nicest people ever. But
I mean, I didn't get to talk to him, but he seemed really nice. And also my sister was like, was this the one in North Carolina where Michael was all weird around him? Our friend Michael went up. I can't remember what he said though. Do you remember, Brianna? He was like, oh God, it was so embarrassing. He like went up to LeVar Burton and like, I don't remember what it was. I just remember we were all like, because he kept talking and trying to make it less awkward.
Oh no.
And just made it more awkward. And LeVar Burton's like,
oh my God, no.
Like the nightmare scenario when you meet a celebrity that you respect is that they look at you like you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah. Did you that reminded me of did you ever hear Jay's story about Drunk 3PO story? About him meeting Hayden Christensen?
I don't think so.
I gotta see if I can find it here because Jay went to a con, and you know, obviously Jay, like, he's not like super well known, like, but he's well known, like, and he was at this con, and they're like, oh, Drunk 3PO or whatever, blah blah blah, and he's like, yeah, I really want to meet Hayden Christensen, and they're like, oh yeah, of course, yeah, we definitely got to get you in there. And then he gets brought up there, and they're like, you know, it was like a long line, and so he passed the line, and he goes up to Hayden Christensen, and then he just goes like, hey, do you hate sand? Because he's like didn't know what else to say, and Hayden was like, and then so they took the picture, and it's just Hayden. He's like, like, and Jay looks, dude. I was like, oh my god, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he hears that all the time. I don't think he was like, "What the fuck
Yeah.
is this?"
But well, it was because of the way he like said it. He's just like, hey, do you like hate sand? And he was just like, yeah, man, let's just like take this picture. But it's just funny to me because like Jay's like the sweetest guy ever, but like he'd be like such a huge nerd sometimes. And he can seem like super smooth, and then other times he does things like that where he says really awkward lines to Hayden Christensen. I gotta find the picture because it was obvious that Hayden was like, can we just get this over with? Like, thanks, man. Yeah.
That's like so he sounds like he would be like the Chris Farley character where he's like, "Hey, you remember that time when you wrote The Love You Take is greater than the love you make?"
Yeah.
It was awesome.
That's really funny. I gotta see if I can find that picture of it because it's pretty great. But yeah, that's why I just don't want to meet people because I don't ever want to be awkward. I don't know.
So you just stay in your house all day and you're like,
Yeah.
can't be awkward if I'm alone.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm like, why? People are like, oh, do you want to go to this con? No, because I might run into somebody and then I might be awkward. So just avoid it.
That is the worst thing. Is like sometimes I'll say things even on live streams. I'll start talking and then my brain goes in like short circuits and I forget what I was going to say. And you're like, I'm awkward and I'm not saying what I want to say. And
yeah,
it's really embarrassing on panels at conventions, especially when you say stuff and you say something inappropriate and then you realize there's children in the first row dressed up like Naruto and you're like, sorry, parents.
Oh no. What's the worst thing you've ever said at a panel?
I mean, probably fuck. Like I probably said like the F-bomb a couple times or whatever and then realized, ugh. Or nothing too crazy, but like on panels by myself, I can do whatever I want, and those always go off the rails. Always.
Gotcha.
There's like always at some point some parent who like leaves the room with their kid. But I'm also like, I didn't know you were here. I didn't realize this was like a family panel.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, maybe we just try not to be so stuck up next time.
Yeah. Shield Wall says F-bomb and then flash the crowd. How did you know? Did you hear about that?
Oh. You can wish.
Oop. It says it was all right. Z Highness says it was all right when I met Mike at the G&G meetup in 2022.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I'm glad it was all right. That was a very awkward thing for me. So
it was all right.
No, we're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is cool. I guess that meetup was crazy. That was very warm that day. It's very warm in Florida in general. That's another reason I want to go down to Georgia. It's hot.
It's hot in Michigan. You guys have the worst of everything. Like up north, people go, "Oh, it's so hot down there," but it's actually. I feel like I was in Rhode Island when I went to Gothic's wedding last year, and it was like 97 degrees, and I'm like, "This is just as bad." So like the winters are colder, and your summers are just as hot. So shut your whore mouth.
I don't know. That sounds like a mischaracterization to me.
Of what? Of the truth?
Yeah, because it's hot in down south, okay, and it's muggy.
I mean, for you, that sounds like a personal problem. It's hot down south. You literally were blow drying your balls earlier.
I still am, okay, and occasionally I pull the shorts aside so I can make sure to get the airflow correctly. But no, listen. I don't think it's that hot. I mean, it gets warm sometimes, yeah, but like it's 77 a day.
And you still got swamp ass.
That's because I'm stuck in a warm room right now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I only have a small fan on my balls just to keep my balls cool because the big fan I have in my room is too loud, and I was trying to be respectful of the stream instead of just cranking a fan right here blowing on me and just making a bunch of noise. And I kind of want to next time.
I have a big giant, like one of those industrial strength kind of fans. You just have like under your desk and it's just blowing your face back, and you're like,
yeah, I'm like, hey, how's it going? I mean, maybe I'll just do that next time. Yeah,
do it.
Yeah.
Also, I'm fucking hungry, so I'm gonna have to call it, guys. I'm gonna have to tap out.
Wow. Why don't you just eat food on the stream?
Because I don't want to talk to you anymore. That's honest.
That's fair.
I'm like, Mike's boring. White Mike was so much cooler.
Yeah, that's why you killed him.
Yeah.
Murderer.
I didn't think he would kill him. I thought it was kinky. We were playing a little game where I just ignored him and didn't feed him for a couple weeks. And he did not respond how I thought he would.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, see?
What?
I agree. Agreed.
Yeah. Well, she's the middle child. Nobody likes middle children.
Wow. I mean, middle children are, you know, that's true.
Yeah.
Middle
'Cause
children
aren't
have,
you the
kind of have it
oldest?
the worst. I'm thinking about like my middle child now, and I'm like, yeah, he kind of does have it the worst now.
Aren't
Like,
you the older one? Or
yeah,
how
well, I'm
old are
talking about my middle child, like, because I have 3
Mm.
now, and I was like, yeah, once you have like the first one, you're like, oh, you're the oldest, you're my, grown, and you have a second one, you're like, oh, you're the baby, but now like we have a third one, and now the middle one, it's like, oh, it's you, huh? You're not the oldest, so like you're not inheriting anything. You're not the youngest, so you're not the cutest anymore. Like, I don't know what to do with you.
It's like the heir and a spare thing, where it's like
Yeah.
you're not gonna be king.
Yeah.
So
Yep. And then the third one's the cutest because it's the baby. Like, because even when the baby grows up, like it's still the baby of the family, you know? So they always have that title. But like the middle one now, you're just like, what do we do with this one? Like,
you're just there.
You're just there. You just exist.
She said, I don't even like me, so you have to try using something different to get under my skin.
It's perfect.
Yeah, nothing
It's the perfect sibling
bothers
deflect.
nothing bothers her because she had me as a sister. So I have to walk up behind her and just start doing annoying stuff like while she's working, and she just ignores it now. Like I can't even get a rise out of her.
Yeah. That's how my son is with his sister. Like he just ignores her, and like that's my favorite thing is she's like, hey, he's not talking to me, and I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I was trying to get him to play a game or whatever, or like I'll walk in the room and she's like yelling at him, and he's like staring at the wall. He's just like checked out, and she's like screaming like, listen to me or whatever, and he's just like, yeah. I'm like, this is actually pretty great. He just like rather stare at paint than listen to what you have to say. So
Yeah,
I guess we'll let you end the stream or whatever. Yeah.
He'll be into stream or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say that's not boring and stupid?
I mean, it's your stream, so it's boring. That's a you problem.
It's always going to be boring and stupid on my stream.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I guess just come back again whenever. I don't know when we're doing this stream again because Amanda changes the times and the dates.
Listen, bitch.
Ad nauseum. It doesn't matter what's happening in my life or her life. She just will come to me and she'll be like, yo, you want to do a stream at this random time?
I'm going to murder you. I'm about to out every secret I have about you. Throwing me under the bus. I move it for you, motherfucker.
She does move it for me, actually. But yeah, just come back. Keep coming back and supporting the channel. Amanda will get out more sketches eventually.
Yeah. I've got stuff like working on, and I'm trying to figure out what the next course of action is. Because every once in a while you have certain sketches where you're like, if I put this one out, it's game over. You know what I mean? Like, or it'll be good in the sense of it might get attention, but then everybody will expect you to make more of that, and you're like, I only want to make one of these.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking to be like that person where I'm like I'm that guy who does that sketch. I'm like, I want to do whatever I want to do.
Yeah,
and it's just not give a fuck.
See, what you need to do, guys, you need to do is if you know she's really excited for a sketch, those are the ones you don't watch. Because then she'll be like, I have to make more of them because they're not getting the attention they deserve. And if you don't like it, that's the one you watch lots of because she's like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
I don't want the attention. Stop watching me.
Stop looking at me, but also love me.
Yeah. Where are the views? Oh God, not that many.
No, if you stop watching it or you just like downvote it all, I'm not somebody who's like, I gotta beat my last sketch. I'm like, oh, I'll just walk off a bridge.
Yeah. Okay, I guess I'll just die then.
I guess I'll just die. Remember was that the Herald the Herald one where he's like, guess I'll die.
Guess I'll die. Wow. That's funny.
Yeah. At least something on the stream is. You and I are boring and stupid.
Yeah, we're so stupid and boring. Come back next week. We'll be around. We came back. This is our comeback with a vengeance stream.
I guess we started. We started with a bang.
Come on everybody's back. So
yeah, we started and came all over everyone's
back.
What the fuck was that? Well,
shit, what is that?
What?
Behind you.
Shut up. I'm saying I just heard like a loud bang. And I just think I might be getting murdered. So I probably shouldn't do that on stream because I get demonetized if I got murdered on stream.
Oh, I don't know. You might get a lot of views there.
Yeah, like posthumous views.
Yeah.
That'd be tight.
Yeah.
Like your mom. Okay, bye.